hunger for glory, feeds the desire, the courage to look for a challenge, to feed your ambitions. To reach for greatness. To become the champion of champions.
Well, hello there, ladies and gents, and welcome back to the CCT Podcast. My name is Sneaky. I'm joined by the wonderful, the sexy Hayes, and we're going to be running you through the action today. We got a couple of things to break down for you. We got some post-player break tournament results. We got the current CCT rankings, and we got the results of the online finals number 2. So lots of exciting topics. But Hayes, just first of all, how has this, post-player break season gone for you so far?
I mean, it's been great. It's been action-packed, right? Because we've had so much going on in CCT since we've gotten back into the thick of things. So many different regions running concurrently. So our plate has been full, but it's been full of phenomenal Counter-Strike and entertaining stuff. So I've been great, man. I've been loving life since the end of the player break. What about yourself?
Yeah, no, it's been good. I've had a lot of South America and North America going on to start
Lucky
things
you.
off, and honestly, I did enjoy the change of scenery for some of it. Jetting back off to South America, not literally, but I enjoyed the action over there, and we have also had some pretty spicy matchups coming over back into Europe. I feel like a lot of sort of tier 1.5s are taking these tournaments more seriously because they are genuinely really, really good practice, and obviously those sort of teams get invited to the playoff stage. They're just able to hone their craft, and there's been a lot of roster changes, and with those roster changes, tournaments like this present a really good opportunity to just, find that rhythm before you have to take it to the main stage.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You get to flesh things out. Teams always say it's different in the practice server to in the online, so into the official server, should I say. And there is a lot of games to be played, right? You go through from the play-in into the main Swiss stage, potentially 5 matches there, then the playoff, then you're from North Europe into South Europe. So you're right, you have a lot of Counter-Strike going on. And I've interviewed a couple of players and they've said, yeah, it is a great opportunity to get some more practice for the team, especially with all the changes that have been made in the off-season. The teams that have stayed together, though, you'd imagine they've had a bit of a head start.
Well, you'd think, but that's definitely something we're going to have to discuss coming into our next section, the post-player break results. Now, I decided to don an Apex jersey today, repping one of the teams that have been through our system quite a few times. And they're definitely a team that I do want to highlight. But before we get there, why not start with South America Series 8 and 9? Well, we'll start with Series 8, and just to fill you guys in, the top 8, or top 4 at least, was 9Z and Sharks in a pretty close final, followed by O Plano, 00 Nation, and then Buketa Bessia, Be Bold, LRV. What I wanted to do is break these down into little sections, so what the actual results were, what the expected results were, and then any upsets, any highlights that we want to talk about. So I think this is probably the most expected set of results of any tournament we've had since the player break. I mean, 9Z beating Sharks in a close affair in the finals. Exciting game, pretty standard there. Oplano and 00 Nation staying competitive, but not quite making it to the top just yet because of their inconsistencies. And I think the only team here that surprised me was Be Bold, definitely outperforming themselves as a mixed roster and managing to make top 8.
Yeah, it was a good run from them. I'd say beating Odic was very impressive, right? You think about the roster changes Odic have made. I guess it was still very early for them after they made the changes, bringing in like Woody, Turtle, and there was one more player that they brought into the mix as well. And they retained a couple players as well, but they made 3 roster changes. So I guess I won't read into that too much considering they lost to Be Bold in that round of 16 matchup. As you say, a good run from Be Bold who lost out to Oplano. Oplano always feel like that one team that'll make like quarters or semis, but they'll never go on to like win the entire thing, right? I do feel like the team they've got right now, though, actually packs us a serious punch. The likes of KNG, Pereira is actually nuts. Like, Pereira is one of those super
Yeah.
confident Brazilian players who'll just run around the map, take gunfights left, right, and center. I think Decency's in the mix as well. Yeah, he is. And Shiz. Showtime's the one guy I'm not as convinced by. I mean, he's bringing more experience to the team than anything else. But I want to see Oplano go one step further.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to see them like hitting the upper echelons of this national scene or of this regional scene. Sorry, and like sometimes they really do. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Showtime is the IGL for that roster. So
It's either
his
him or
dip in-
KNG, yeah.
yeah, his dip in performance is a little understandable, but sometimes the lack of firepower definitely hurts this team, especially when there are so many crazy young prospects like just dancing around in South America right now. I understand that the transfer market in South America is not the nicest place to try
Yeah.
and pick up new talent, which is why actually a lot of organizations opt for trades instead of paying the buyout, because we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars for some players here, some of the younger talents. So they're more expensive than JL's move to Navi, to put things into perspective. And we don't see too many South American teams knocking them out in the top 10, top 20 at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, normally South American orgs very reluctant to pay the crazy buyouts. Recently, we saw with Fallen joining Fury. Of course, I think it was like 700K or something like that they spent for him to join their ranks. But you're right, the buyouts are a bit ridiculous in the region. That's kind of why I guess teams are forced to develop their talent as well and to push through difficult times. Can't always make the roster changes you want. One team that hasn't made any roster changes in a while, I guess they did make a change. It was Sharks, right? They brought in Doxson for Shea Jesus. Now, I thought Shea was actually really good. I don't think it was a problem about Shea at an individual level, but I think maybe just the way that he meshed with the team. Doc is looking pretty good. Now, my one problem with Sharks is that they've made it to, like, I think 2 finals in a row, Series 7 and Series 8. They've made it to a couple semifinals as well, but they haven't gone on to win a series yet. So here in Series 8, as you said, they got to the finals. They played against 9Z. They lost there again, a narrow 2-0. So they need to find it in them. They need to be able to win one of these series, right? It feels like maybe they're struggling with that, maybe a bit of a choke mentality, but they've got what it takes.
They certainly do, and they're also in the runnings for Series 9 as well, which we'll get onto. And I think Series 9 is probably their best chance yet at finally taking a victory in one of these. But we also have to compliment them on their efforts against 9Z. They didn't drop a mat. They looked really, really close. They didn't struggle too much getting to that finals in the first place either. But let's have a look at the upsets. We've already mentioned Odic versus Be Bold. We understand that there were some roster changes there, but a 16-6 and a 16-12 loss, those were pretty rough. Also, I said it was quite sad that we didn't get to see Furia Academy play. They forfeited in the round of 16, and I was really hoping to see what those guys could do, because they were such a strong team in the region up until, well, admittedly, before the player break started. But they've had a couple of roster shuffles, a couple of changes, and they're still trying to find their footing again. And I was really hoping that we'd be able to see, Furia Academy find their form in the next series. But that's not really happened just yet. But any other upsets you can pluck out, or
Not really.
Is that really it?
I think, the one result, Bestia being beaten by 9Z 2-0. Bestia obviously won CCT South America Series 7, I think. So they have got quite a lot of expectation behind them. They lost 16-8, 16-13. So now when you watch Bestia play against pretty much any team from South America outside like the top 2, you expect them to be competitive. So I think that was a bit lackluster from them.
Yeah, it would be nice to see them putting up bigger numbers, but I think the highlights for this, though, are for the most part the expected teams did perform. As I said, it's one of the most sort of expected result sheets we've seen of any tournament since the player break. There's an exciting finals, and Sharks do still look solid. If I'm perfectly honest, we don't expect Sharks to beat 9Z, especially in the form that they were displaying.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. I think, though, it's possible now. I will say I think Sharks are getting enough to beat 9Z. I don't think it's like a guaranteed. I'd say it's probably like 55-45. I think that's how close it actually is between those two teams. Yeah, but Sneaky, let's move the ship along. Where we're going next?
Well, we're going to very briefly South America Series 9. I know it's an ongoing tournament right now. I was up all night waiting for that final game to finish, and then they went to like a quintuple overtime or something.
Goddamn.
It was it was pretty wild. Corinthians managed to end up losing to who was it now?
Case.
Case. Yeah, Case put up a crazy performance. I did not expect that first map to go into however many overtimes it did. It just shows how much of these two teams want it and how evenly matched they were, at least for that first one. We know the 5th to 8th is Bestia, Odic, Meta, and Corinthians. And I think my favourite, again, for this tournament is Sharks, and my favourite runner-up is Paqueta.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Sharks versus Paqueta final would be a tasty one, right? We would have a new champion then as well. Didn't get to talk much about Paqueta in the previous bracket. They made some roster changes as well. The change they made that I'm most excited by was bringing Hardzao into the mix. Now, Hardzao was previously a part of Pain Gaming, and we know how well Pain Gaming did throughout, 2023.
Yeah.
Had some phenomenal results. So I'm very excited to see Hardzao in the mix. And then they've also brought Short into the team. Now, I believe Short is going to be taking over the IGL role. I think he was playing for Arctic before, if I'm not mistaken. But he comes into the team. It's Yell who makes way, and Ale as well. Now, Yell, experienced, sure, but a little bit hit and miss. I think, mechanically struggled a little bit sometimes. But Hardzao and Short, I think they've just elevated this team to the next level.
Oh, yeah. No, they look really, really solid right now. I'm excited to see if they can continue delivering on this level. But this bracket had a lot more upsets. I'm going to throw out one of my favorite names of a mixed team in a while, Filos de Dios.
Yes.
The Children of Dios. It's a pretty good-looking squad under the coach of Dios. And they've managed to make top 4. Yes, they did get a forfeit win map over Bestia, but I still think Bestia probably not winning that series 2-0 was a bit of an upset in itself. And they also beat Boca 2-1. And you said Boca were playing with their coach.
Yeah.
So their road to getting to top 4 has been a little easier than some, but it's still pretty damn impressive that this team that's sort of just an amalgamation of players who weren't able to find success with their previous lineups all coming together. And these are good players as well, but they made it work, and they made it work very quickly, especially given the fact that Bestia was the number 1 seed for this tournament.
Yeah, they did a great job, especially on Nuke, to win out that second map. They were lucky to get that third map as a forfeit win. But I think the player who's impressed me the most on Filios de Dios, because I've got to cast him a couple times now, is probably XNS, previously of Paqueta. That guy has been so impressive with the rifle. Detroit's got crazy potential, but he's just not very consistent. He's a bit hit and miss at the moment. So I think if Filios de Dios can get everything together, like when they're at their best, they look really good. But it's just about performing at that level consistently, and that's where they struggle at the moment. It's very hot and cold out of them, and I think that, this is where their run ends. Drawing Paqueta in the semi-final, I don't see them getting through Paqueta in this matchup.
You don't believe in the Filos de Dios miracle run to first place?
Unfortunately not, mate.
Oh, that's
no
tragic.
these streets. Yeah, I think job's done here for Paqueta.
Yeah, that's fair.
Final.
Well, I'll sprint through the rest of the upsets. Fluxo, they look miserable. Fluxo compared to Tranche 1 Fluxo, who won 4 tournaments back-to-back in a row, they look so bad right now. They don't win a single map from their playoffs invite, and I don't know what's happened to them. Actually, okay, let's not sprint through Fluxo. Let's talk about them for a quick second. What do you think is going on here, Hayes?
It's such a good question, because you've built this team that's supposed to be an upgrade from the previous roster. You brought Zevi into the mix. Now, Zevi was like the biggest highlight on Pain Gaming, and now you've brought him into Fluxo. Huge check mark. That's supposed to be a massive addition. Joining up with Lukauzi, one of my favorite rifles from the region. That was a duo I've been so keen for, but they just haven't lived up to expectation. I don't know if they're trying to play a completely different brand of Counter-Strike, from what they were playing before. I haven't got to cast their game yet, so I haven't seen it firsthand. But it's just not looking great. I mean, obviously, Zeus isn't the coach anymore as well. That's one big piece that's changed. And I think that might be having an effect as well, right? Losing Zeus has to be a huge loss for a team.
No, and evidently they've fallen very flat since his departure, since a little bit of shuffling. But that's a big concern from a team who was pushing the major, a team that was doing like reasonably well in the playoffs of every tournament they were being put into, and now they're dormant. And another team I'm a little bit sad to say isn't performing very well is Fury Academy. I've just said that they look underwhelming. I don't think they even made it to top 16 this time. They got lost in the groups. And also a huge drop off for Be Bold. They went from 5 to 8. They went from 5th to 8th to 0-3 in the Swiss stage of this tournament. So that was a rough one for them and a little bit unexpected. But I think that's all of the upsets. Looking at the highlights, though, Case overperforming. Really solid stuff from Case. It's been fun to watch the fact that there are a lot of upsets. Sharks versus Odic was a very close game, so that's a testament to Odic up against a much better opposition. The newer teams have been given a better chance, as a lot of the South American teams have actually just buggered off to Europe.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. And with good reason, because that's the place to be when it comes to competitive Counter-Strike. But another team I'd like to highlight is Meta. I feel like they're just like slowly getting better and better. They've made some changes as well. I feel like it's a slow burn, but they get to the quarterfinals this time. They lose out to Paqueta 2-1. They pushed Paqueta the distance on all 3 maps. It was hotly contested. I'm a fan of Cuts Moretz, their IGL, so maybe there's a little bit of bias coming through from me. He follows me on Twitter, so I just have to say nice things about him. But in all honesty, I do like that Meta team. I'm a big fan of Suplex in particular. I think he's a very exciting prospect on the roster. I think initially himself and Cuts Moretz were leaving, but then they ended up staying. I mean, Cuts Moretz even did a massive long, longer post about how he was saying goodbye to Meta, and then he just never stopped playing for them. And then I DM'd, I was like, what's going on here? He's like, nah, I'm actually staying with the Org. So clearly that was a match made in heaven. They couldn't break up with each other.
No, I mean, clearly some salary negotiations went on there, and a big thumbs
Money talks,
up.
man.
Money does talk. And so do results. Again, they're doing pretty well right now, and I hope that it's not too long before they can continue posting like pretty high playoffs caliber finishes. But we're going to skirt past the rest of South America now. I'm looking forward to seeing the results of tonight's matches for South America. In fact, we're both casting the South American matches tonight, so you can see us later, keeping you filled in. I realise now that this is probably going to come out in about 6 months' time, but we did cast those matches, and it was fun. Okay, racketing on. We're coming into Europe now, and we're looking at North Europe 6. This is where we got to see Spirit showcase their new talent, and by God, is Donk insane. We got Spirit with Donk winning the tournament. We got Saw coming second. The Eternal Fire and Evil Geniuses, which I have a lot of asterisks for. I'll get back to that. And then One Win Sinners, BNE, and MIBR racketing in at 5th to 8th. So expected. Spirit, I would say, were not expected at the time to come first. They just brought in Donk and Artfrost and Zontix, and they were trying to, find their form after the player break, and by God, did they find their form quickly. Donk is our Lord and Savior.
Yeah, Donk, the 16-year-old, is insane. Artfrost as well, just ridiculous with the AWP. That trio of players that they brought in from the academy team is just so damn exciting. So damn exciting for CIS and Eastern European Counter-Strike in general. Just Counter-Strike scene at large, seeing these new players cropping up. And yeah, Spirit did phenomenally well in one of their first outings. And they took some big names, particularly the name was Bad News Eagles. That was their biggest scalp in the process of winning that event. I'd reckon you could almost say whoever won that quarterfinal would probably go on to win the entire event, right? Between Spirit and Bad News Eagles. Certainly could have been the final itself. But Spirit just hit the ground running with the changes they've made. And I suppose that's a reflection of bringing 3 players in and then combining them with Magix and Chopper. It's not like you've got 5 new individuals coming together that you now have to construct an identity with.
I was going to say, it's almost like what Mouse are doing now. They're like, oh, damn, you know how our academy team was better than our main team for their entire existence? Why not just buy back Shui? And now Mouse actually look really, really good with Sui and Torji doing insane numbers right now, especially Sui being the IGL. And Spirit, it's worked out nicely. They haven't brought up an IGL. I think Chopper is perfectly capable there. They had a couple of rough results outside of this tournament. Well, I say a couple. They had a rough result against VP that we'll come on to a little bit later in the rematch. The one risk with Spirit is if people start isolating Donk and just sort of gunning him down early in a round, playing around his positions, then the team does look a little bit more shaky. You can't put all of your sort of eggs into the star power basket of Donk. But I'm still really happy with Spirit's progression, and they're looking like a much better team right now. And also looking at Saw, a really solid showing, and they also beat Eternal Fire. Really impressive stuff for them.
Yeah, it was a good showing out of Saw, beating Sinners and Eternal Fire in the process of getting to that grand final, losing out narrowly to Spirits. I feel like things are starting to come together since they've added Rostos and U-Jerks. I mean, U-Jerks has been there for a while now, but Rostos has taken a bit longer, I would say, to really acclimatize to the team and to this level. Obviously, he was playing at quite a lot of a lower level before this in his previous team.
Yeah.
So not what he's accustomed to, but I can see the vision now. I can see why they've picked him up. And
he's adapting well.
Yeah, he is, and his level is improving. So I think there's still some exciting times. I think there's still some room for improvement with Saw, which is saying quite a lot considering what we've seen out of them lately.
Yeah, also there's been some fun, like, trying to pronounce his name. Is it Aras-Dolce, Aras-Dolce? And, me and Trev had a whole back and forth on his stream about it. And then, we looked at Google Translate and we got 3 different pronunciations, because whether it's Brazilian, Portuguese,
just go with whatever
Spanish.
Twitch chat say, man. Those guys always know what they're talking about.
Oh man, the Twitch chat are brutal. Like, if you mispronounce a name, they will come for you, and they
Apparently
will
it means
not
like
let you
sweet
rest.
rice or something, or like rice pudding.
Yeah,
so, there we go.
No, there are some fun translations in names as well,
Yeah.
especially in South America. I mean, shout out to my personal favorite name of just fuck you.
Yeah, that's
No,
always a goodie. Yeah, it's just like, I was going to run you over. Fuck you, man.
How are you meant to pronounce that name whilst
Yeah.
keeping a straight face?
I mean,
It
there's like
doesn't-
1962 as well. I think he's playing for like one of the South American teams as well. There's Kochi, literally the coach.
I love Kochi.
My question is, did he just like know he was going to be a coach one day, so he just made his player name Coach? Like, everyone chooses their role when they're a kid when they're playing games. How did you choose Kochi? I need to know the backstory. Anyway, I digress. Let's focus back on the
I was
bracket
always
show.
mouthy. That's why I'm the commentator now. So.
There we go. Mouthy. Yeah. Listen, Eternal Fire, another team we should probably highlight. They beat Espionage and one win.
Yeah.
Another team we could talk
Good
a bit
team.
about. But Eternal Fire, I think they're in some decent form right now. Obviously, the revolving door. Woxic is now back in the mix. They've got Wakadia playing for Xfloud, constantly chopping and changing. I think the 5 that they've got now are the best 5 we've seen, maybe since they've been building this team, though, I reckon.
I mean, they've made Pro League, they've made waves and just like playoffs of online tournaments. I enjoy watching them as well. They are always now like a contender or favorite coming into their matches, because they look so damn strong. When Xantaras and Woxic are playing like they have been, and Wakadia shows his true form, they are menacing. And I mean, I was casting them recently. Even Calix was just like hitting big numbers. And I mean, if we go all the way back to our Malta finals LAN, a Major was playing sensationally. And, he's had a decent run of form since then. So every piece of that puzzle can show up at any given time. And when they all connect together, I honestly think they could beat top 5 teams in the world.
Yeah, I think Wakadia needs a little bit more time. The one guy I've got a comparison of in my head is Quirts with Sinners. Kind of came out of nowhere, not somebody that had been well recognized. His talent was there, but he's very much an uncut diamond. And now you fast forward 5 or 6 months since he's joined the main team. This guy's banging on the server right now. Like, Quirts is somebody who's really impressing me. I think he's developed a huge amount in that period, and I think we can see a similar sort of trajectory from Wakadia.
But let's move on to some upsets as well. So, Fours, number 1 seed, they came last. Yes, they have a new team. Yes, they've lost Jerry. And I feel like Jerry is the identity of Fours. But even still, coming dead last, that is pretty rough for Forza on not quite a debut, but one of their first post-player break tournaments. Also, B&E, I'm going to say, have been arguably underperforming since...
it's not arguable.
Well, yeah. In this tournament, we didn't know quite how bad the damage was yet, as this was so close to the start of the player break. But recently, they have been just a bit ass, really.
I think this is the worst form we've seen out of Bad News Eagles since they've made this roster. They lost out to Orcs in their pursuit of qualifying for Pro League. They
Yeah,
lost to Spirit in the quarterfinals. Sure, Spirit, but
that's
think about the
okay.
roster changes they've made. Bad News Eagles would expect to beat them. They then lost to Alternate Attacks 2-0. They've lost to MIBR 2-0 and Saw 2-0. They beat Nouns 2-1. Nouns are North American, sneaky. That's supposed to be a free victory for a European team. So yeah, it's trouble town right now for Bad News Eagles.
I was going to say, that Nouns game, I was like, no, please, Peony, not like this.
And listen, the fans of that team, they don't pull their punches, sneaky. They're fairly brutal, the fans from Kosovo in general. So you got to perform if you're on Bad News Eagles, man.
Please get out of my DMs, guys. I don't hate Bad News Eagles.
Sneaky, the thing is, it's like, you're one of the best guys I've ever met. Like, you wouldn't harm a fly, mate. And your DMs are just a dumpster fire, I think it's safe to say.
Bro, the Bad News Eagles fan base, it's okay, guys. We don't hate B&E. I actually quite like them. I really like Devil Walk as well. He's a lovely guy. I've got some pictures with him. Calm down.
Synopsy follows me on Twitter. Come on,
exactly,
guys.
Yeah. He follows me on Twitter as well from the Blink days. See, I know things about your team. I was supporting them before you were, so don't come at me.
The one thing I would like to say, though, sorry,
yes,
you can finish your points about B&E because I'm in a pivot here.
It's okay. No, B&E needs some drastic improvement. I don't know how they do it. Like every time a major rolls around, they're just like, oh, you know what, boys, let's start
Sticker
playing,
money.
and then they like hit. Well, obviously, the sticker money is incredibly good for an unsigned team. I think they got one sponsor in like Giraffa, which is obviously a regional thing. That's pretty good. But they're doing okay right now.
Yeah.
They're sticker money for the past two tournaments. Three majors now.
Yeah, three. Yeah.
They are doing good. So and James Banks is their manager as well. They've got good people behind them.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully, there's going to be an upward trend in their results soon enough. What I do want to say is just go back to what you're saying about Fours. Now, this team, I don't know about you, but I'm not really too high on Fours right now, like after the changes that they've made.
No.
The one player that I have no problem with is Shelfie. Like, Shelfie's been one of my favorite players to watch for a while, but like Crad is someone that I'm still like, not necessarily too in on. I think he's been okay. I think he does his role quite well. Result, I'm going to need to see quite a lot out of him. Alien has kind of disappeared since the end of his time in Entropic. He then played in like, I think Boston Crabs or something like that, just kind of floating around the scene. Now he's ended up in Forza, but I haven't seen anything to suggest that he's going to get back to the same highs we saw out of him in Entropic.
I mean, yeah, at least he's reunited with a former teammate or two, but even still, it's just like, I think Jerry is Fours. Without Jerry, I no longer am a Fours fan because I love Jerry's style. I love the way he's molded players. I love the way that a lot of his understudies are now in like tier 1, tier 1.5, upper echelons of Counter-Strike. I mean, you look at Aurora after the two boys under his tutelage joined there. Jerry was there for what, 5.5 years, 6 years, I think he was. And he's not old either. Like he's like 24, 25. But no, he was just one of the best and most underrated IGLs until I'd say maybe this year / last year. He just flew under so many people's radars and they were so competitive, making majors. It's all Jerry. Jerry is always there. He's a consistent factor of that team. And without him, I don't see a future where Fours continues to hit that tier 1, tier 1.5 level. And it is sad. I really hope that somebody picks up Jerry. I was going to say he would have been a pretty good fit for Cloud9, actually, as the IGL. But you know what? They look great right now. I've since sort of fallen back on that statement. But I do think especially CIS teams, Russian teams, a lot of them could benefit from having Jerry as the core piece of their puzzle.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think it's just going to take some time. His English isn't bad either, by the way. No? If you maybe want to consider an international roster for Jerry, that might not be
my ESCA Open team, get Jerry in here so we can...
Sneaky, I don't know if you'll be able to contain yourself with how much you've been singing his praises, but either way, that is North Europe, mate. I think... we've highlighted a lot about the teams. You said you wanted to talk about EG, so maybe you should just mention what you want to say there about them, and then we can pivot across to the next one.
Like their tournament run, they managed to beat who? They beat a regional rival and they beat Arcred. So they beat a tier 3 EU team and they beat MIBR, who they've played before anyway. And then
that was a legit win, though.
That was a legit win. Their win over MIBR was actually super clean, especially given how MIBR have been performing in Europe lately.
I cast that game, actually.
Definitely above expectations. But yeah, I feel like if they'd been given the same bracket as some of these other teams, I mean, they could have played Spirit or Saw and that kind of thing. It would have been a different story altogether. They got absolutely trashed when they did lose their game. But I guess it is a sign of improvement for EG. And you know what? I'm just going to step out there and say, I normally trash on Evil Geniuses, but I really like Junior right now, and I have been impressed with their regional stature. I mean, I was watching them in some open qualifiers last night, and they were doing good work. They had good principles, and as much as I like lamenting them, EG are getting better, and it's nice that they have sort of regained that North American identity.
Yeah, I put a tweet out recently saying, I actually think the tide is finally starting to turn now for Evil Geniuses. I think that this roster has got something going. I think that there's a huge room for improvement, which is good. The ceiling, I think, is actually super high with this team. Yeah, exactly. It's just about raising the floor. Like, I see them playing some tournaments against no-namers, in North America, and then they, drop a map or something like that, right? So the problem is the consistency is not quite there, but, Welco Calling looks great. He's only, I think, 22 years old, so long future ahead of him. Automatic is automatic. I actually don't have to say anything about him because everybody knows what he brings to the table. Super consistent and exciting. But yeah, I'm with you, man. If I had to buy stock in EG, I think now I would be putting a little bit of money into the stock of their CS team.
Which is, again, it's probably a relief for them to hear, because EG have just been on a roller coaster trajectory for the longest time now. I mean, the last tournament of note they won was what? I am New York, 2019?
Was 2019? The thing is it's not even funny to bag on them anymore, right? It's become a thing now where everybody wants to just pile on Evil Geniuses and have their joke heard, but it's just at this point, it's not even funny. We should want to see them do well, a massive organization contributing huge resources to a region that's struggling so much.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this is a competitive Counter-Strike. It's not a competitive game, should I say, rather. It's not a charity. So you got to put up the results and hopefully we'll see more of them.
But on that note, I will skip through the rest of the notes. Upsets. Harvu really struggling. Harvu've never really recovered since their initial roster change, and Nexus going 1-3 in the Swiss stage is a pretty big drop off from the pre player break season, because they were actually looking pretty good. They were making some playoffs, making some runs. But highlights, Spirit, again, amazing. Dunk is a star. Eternal Fire and Sora delivering. Sinners look really solid. And NA and South America don't lose to Tier 3 EU. MIBR make a little bit of a run. Evil Genius make a little bit of a run when I don't think they would have a short time ago. But now, running on, Central Europe Series 7 is ongoing. The playoffs start on Monday. So for this one, we'll talk about the group stage quickly. Sinners and Espionage look great. 3-0s there. The 3-1s, pretty standard. 9 Pandas, B8 Rubik, and Endpoint XI Nation and Alternate Attacks were honestly 3 surprises making it through there. Endpoint have been a bit shaky lately, and XI Nation haven't played in ages, yet they scrape through, and Alternate Attacks show a good run of form.
Which events is this Central Europe that you've moved to now? Or where? Sorry,
this is Central Europe Series 7.
Okay, I thought so. I'm just making sure I'm on the same page as you here. Yeah, I mean, not concluded just yet either. We've kind of just got the playoff bracket set up, right, coming into the next stage of the competition.
Also, I'll run through the upsets. Eyeballer's not making it through. That's pretty rough. Sampy not making it through. They've been inconsistent, but they do look good enough to make that playoffs run. Going 1-3 for 500 is wild. That's rough.
I would almost say, looking at the Swiss stage bracket, which you guys can find on HLTV to just kind of get an idea of what we're saying while we're talking about it, is you could almost flip the top half with the bottom half and not be surprised with those bottom 8 teams qualifying for the playoffs. 500, Nexus, Namiga, Sampy, Sangel, Eyeballers. You could so easily see all of those teams progressing to the playoffs from the Swiss stage.
Yeah, and Mouse NXT will give them time. They're a completely new roster at this point. Very, very young players, and shout out to Mouse for doing what EG couldn't and have a successful under team. And Masonic, Masonic have not looked great.
Oh, they're struggling so much.
Yeah. The players aren't gelling. The ratings are just barely hitting 1.0 most of the time. Masonic, yes, they've had a lot of trouble. All of their best players have been poached mercilessly. So I do feel bad for Masonic, but this team is walking wounded right now. Playoffs, ITB have a lot to prove. Monty and Eternal Fire could meet in the quarterfinals. That would be a really spicy matchup, but also pretty brutal. Looking for Org are looking to get back on a high after they beat VP, after there's some crazy results. They then lost to Big and another team. So if they can get back to where they were before those two losses, that would be really good for them. And Saw and Aurora look really solid. This playoffs is stacked and is anyone's game. And also, a further highlight, 3 close qualifier teams have made it to the playoffs in Alternate Attacks, Exi Nation, and Rubik, which is just a testament to that close qualifier being supportive of some big names.
I mean, Rubik is the most impressive of those names as well, right? Like, these guys are actually starting to get quite a lot of attention. The Hungarian roster, Fleeve finally consistently competing at this level again. He was standing in for a lot of teams. So I'm excited to see him back in the mix consistently. Aurora, I would say, have dropped off a little bit after the highs they reached, a few months ago, tier 2. We still all know what they're capable of, but the anime team, not as crazy as they used to be. And I want to get a finals prediction here, Sneaky, because obviously the playoff bracket, no matches have been played at the time of recording, so we don't know which way this one's going to go. I'll start off to give you some time to think this one through. Looking at it here, I'm going to go with Monty, considering they're at the top of the bracket, and I think that they're going to play against Espionage in the grand
Wow, that's a bold one. Espionage coming out of nowhere there. Okay, Espionage are a great team. They're made up of the majority of the former Tricked guys.
Yes.
And they continue just like a really consistent, solid run of form, like hovering around like top 30, top 40. But I reckon Saw. I reckon this is Saw's time to shine. I need to have a look at the bracket very quickly. I've got it open. Don't worry.
I've thrown you a bit of a curveball here.
No, I'm saying Saw versus either Eternal Fire or Monty. But then again, I don't want to rule out looking for Org with how solid they've been.
True. Yeah.
Because they took down Virtus Pro very recently after they won CCT Online Finals. They beat them in Thunderpick, and that was really, really impressive. They did it in an overtime affair, but they did it, and that's what matters. But one more thing to note here is B8 overperform. Nine Pandas continue a good run of form, and Sprout has been invited straight to the playoffs, along with other exciting Tier 1.5 teams. So Sprout, a new look roster, bold to invite them straight to the playoffs, but I'm excited to see what they can bring here. And hopefully 500 don't ever get bodied as badly as they did as the 8th seed.
Do you think they're missing Rainwaker?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, understandably so. That's a huge hole to try and plug now for 500. But yeah, exciting times ahead here with this playoff bracket being as stacked as it is. I think there's actually, let's see how many top 30 teams there are. We've got Monty, Into the Breach, Saw, OneWood, and Aurora. So exciting. 5 teams in the top 30 here in our 16-team playoff bracket.
No, I'm really, really looking forward to that. I'm actually going to watch along with that one, as I'm going to throw us over to East Europe now. It feels very weird saying Series 1. Series 1 is not a thing we say too often anymore, as we celebrated our 1-year CCT anniversary. Woo, go CCT.
We did.
That was back in like the early stages of August. But okay, let's look at this. The Swiss stage is ongoing, so we can plow through this. Holy shit. Question Mark and X Viperio go 3-0. X Viperio go 3-0. After bottoming out every Swiss stage we've had, going 0-3, 0-3, 1-3 if they're lucky, they go 3-0. Sensational. I put that in my upsets and my highlights. I've just written WTF Viperio. It was insane. And it's not like they played like washed over teams either. They put up a very, very good showing here. I think they beat 500 in the process too. As another thing I've put down, holy shit, Matties, a 2.85 rating. That was insane. That was a career-defining performance from Matties there.
Not necessarily the debut that Preezy were hoping for, unfortunately, just getting run right over by Mattis, who's shown a lot of potential in Sampi recently. This is a pretty crazy Swiss stage, I'd say. Question Mark, I rate these guys so highly, though. Previously known as Iron Branch, it's the gang of Lollipop, Gangino, Masvel, Sad, and Knifey. Um, I'm a huge fan, I must say. I
Yeah.
cast them in the closed qualifier, so they came from the play-ins into the Swiss stage. They've now gone 3-0 in the Swiss stage. So these guys are, doing it the long way, but now they've got themselves into the playoffs. So they're taking a lot of points in the process here to try and qualify for the next online finals. And they're just showing all the potential orgs out there what they're capable of, along with X Viperio, who have just announced the departure of their Counter-Strike division. So there's a couple teams out there who deserve a home, I'd say, based on the results we've seen out of them recently.
We got 2 orgless rosters, both of which came from the closed qualifiers going 3-0. That is a statement piece from both of those teams. And also, I mean, looking at the 2-1 bracket, we got Sampi, Nine Pandas, and Incilio. Incilio, I believe, is another closed qualifier team who are definitely overperforming to be in that 2-1 bracket. We got Space, 500, and Ecla. Ecla are also a brand new team. So to clarify, there is an Ecla roster, which is like Mihu and the boys, and then we got Ecla Ukraine, which is another separate roster there. I guess they're like the academy team, the national team, both of which are doing pretty well right now. But Ecla, given how sort of mishmash the roster is from a glance, I'm impressed that they're hitting that 2-1 bracket right now. And on the flip side, in the 1-2, Anonymo have not looked great. It's the core of Ex Honoris. I really want them to be doing more. They've got so much experience on that lineup that it feels like they should be hitting more punches.
Yeah.
And B8 is sort of inconsistent right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me jump in here for a second quickly, just to have something to say about Anonymo.
Sure.
They brought Masked into the mix, and I'm just not completely sold on the move. Masked was AWPing for Illumina before. Then when he left the team, he said he wanted to shift into an IGL role on his Twitter. Then he joined Anonymo. Obviously, it's going to be Lunatic.
Yeah, Lunatic
will be doing
with the
AWPing
IGL.
for the IGLing rather for the team, not the AWPing. That's for sure. And then Samey is the AWP, right? So now you've got Masked, who was AWPing, wanted to IGL, but is now just a rifler in the pack, right? So he's not doing what he used to. He's not doing what he wanted to, and he's taking a completely different role on. So honestly, I'm just not completely sold by this Masked move. And I see it says no team on HLTV now. So I don't know if Anonymo have actually pulled the trigger on making a move. There's a question mark now in that 5th spot. Masked is no longer there.
Okay.
So maybe, the move hasn't gone as well as they would have liked, and they're going to be looking for a new player. I just see that right now when I'm having a look. But that was my genuine opinion, that Masked really hasn't meshed too well with that ex-Honoris core now in Anonymo.
No, definitely not. I don't think he was like the TAZ substitute that this side needed. They need like a really heavy hitting rifler coming through.
Exactly.
And yeah, bringing on an
and then you're cooking, right, with that core 4.
Yeah,
Ryko,
no,
Sobol,
really.
Samey, plus one like really strong rifler.
Yeah.
And in Poland, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of these crazy riflers. So you can
poach from
pick
Orcs,
and choose.
poach from, well, maybe not poach from 9, but poach from Orcs right now. They got some talent.
Absolutely.
Cooking.
Get Olymp in the team, man. Get Casey. Get Senex.
HS as well. I think he speaks Polish. Like he's
he's in that
fragging.
team. Yeah.
But
Enox.
Yeah.
Another good option. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see who they slot in there. I will say Bait, they brought NPL into the team recently. It's looked a bit shaky, but I think they're slowly starting to get the ball rolling. Wrinkle definitely had a dip in form. For being such a young player, though, it's expected. You know, he's going to have that period in his career. It's about getting through that dip to then get back to your highs before. That's what makes a good player great.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll throw them the mitigating circumstances card as well. These players are young, and they've got a lot going on right now. So B8, they're a little bit inconsistent, but they're a fun team to watch, and they have a very high skill ceiling. I reckon there's a lot of potential for this team here. We could be seeing B8 pushing like ECL again sometime soon. As Entropic, what is this team? It is wild. You know what? At a glance, I think this is a really fun team for Entropic. I think they got like Tizian in the team now, along with
they do
another band of merry men.
They've got Marix, Tizian, Oxygen's in the mix there as well. They've just got like this crazy combination. It's like they just took all the free agents and names out there. They put them in a hat. They drew 5 names, and they've ended up with this team. Because not in my wildest dreams, 4C as well. Listen, it's a great grouping of players. I actually think it's an exciting time ahead for Entropic. Much better than the roster they had before this, built around Snatchy. But they're 1-2 right now, so not inspiring a huge amount of confidence.
Also, Preezy, okay, their debut, spoiled a little bit by, as we mentioned,
matches.
but I'll speed through. Okay, I've got notes here. Freezing and Dropic, really cool rosters. I think they need a bit of time to gel. That's understandable that they're not performing amazing right now. Nexus are flatlined. Come on, 0-3 Nexus. We need to see a lot more from you. You're a good team.
You
Navi
got
Youth.
Zelo now as well.
Yeah, but Navi Youth are going to need a hell of a lot more time to gel. They're a very, very fresh roster. I've not casted Navi Youth since 2020, back when Manesi was still on the roster. So it's a little bit of a different caliber to what they were then, but I'm still excited for them. I reckon 9 Pandas and 500 not going at 3-0 in a group like this is probably a little bit of a slip up. But looking at the pluses, Eekla looking good, and the closed qualifier teams still looking exciting. We don't have the playoffs teams announced yet, so we won't focus on those. But there is a lot of potential for some newer teams to be making playoffs here. And that concludes our post-player break summary of results. Let's have a very quick look at the CCT rankings and then a very quick look at the online finals, because I love a ramble, if you know me. But current CCT rankings, let's start with South America Tranche 2, if we can, please. Production, there we go. So as you can see, 9Z, Sharks, Bacata, Bestia, O Plano. And this is locked in now. This is confirmed as the top 3. So 9Z, Sharks, and Bacata will be invited to the next online final, or maybe not the next, but one of the upcoming online finals. And this is a really good display of talent for the region.
Yeah, it is. I mean, those 3 teams are, you could almost cherry pick those and say that those would be the best representation outside of the top 2 teams, your Furious and maybe MIBR as well. But either way, things looking exciting here with the way Tranche 2 is set up going into the online finals. 9Z, I'm keen to see them over the pond in Europe competing against some of the teams from the circuits we run there. Bestia, a bit unfortunate, I would say, not to get into that top 3 after they won Series 7. Probably going to be kicking themselves a little bit. Obviously, as you say, this is now locked in, that we've concluded the Series 5 to 8. And yeah, I think that, looking at these names, we ended up with the 3 best teams at the top of the pops.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, Fury Academy falling off a cliff a little bit. Baka unlucky with a couple of stand-in instances. I'm happy with this. I'm going to move straight on to our other concluded bracket in West Europe. So West Europe, we got Monty, Spirit, now Spirit Academy, Apex, followed by Saw and Havu. Havu have since gone a little bit missing. West Europe finished a little bit of time ago now. But I think Monty, definitely one of the best to represent the region. Apex as well. I mean, hey, I'm in the jersey right now. They're clearly doing something right. And Spirit, we've seen what Spirit can do right now. Unlucky to Saw. They're a very, very good team. But I think that lock-in definitely speaks for 3 worthy teams of making the online finals.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, massive names that are really going to elevate the competition when it comes to those online finals. I'm surprised to see Eyeballers and iNation so low, considering how many of the CCT events they compete in. I think that they could have contributed or accumulated a few more points throughout the season. So I think that's a little bit poor form out of them, considering they were regular, features and frequented these events. I will say for Havu, man, they're just going through so many difficult times, considering how many roster changes continue to happen. Now, you had Ariel, who's benched himself. Then they try and get a little bit of stability. Then X7 retires from Counter-Strike. So it's just constantly changing for Havu.
Yeah, no, I do feel really bad for Havu because they were in elite form for a little while.
At the end of last season, mate, these guys were great.
Oh man, it's a gut punch. It really is. But moving on from West Europe, let's hop over to Central Europe as, hey, Monty are back on top. Monty are a great team. They were grinding through CCT and they credited their grind as to part of their bigger successes. Also, Heat are the current looking for org roster. The French guys and Big Academy are effectively big right now because you've got 3 of the Big Academy players at the time not playing on the main roster. Spirit Academy is now Spirit, and Endpoint get a little bit unlucky there. Monty, massive points hog in Central Europe here. They have just decimated the rest of the competition. And again, I think, Monty looking for org and Big, definitely worthy invites for Central Europe as well.
I don't think it's done yet, though, right? Because we still have Series 7 playoffs to
Yeah,
go
you're right.
and then Series 8 to be played afterwards. So this one's still a bit more open-ended. Teams like Endpoint, Sinners, Eyeballers, with some deep runs, they could actually still get themselves into it. And that's because, as you say, Monty are the points hoggers right now. So they'll stay first, pretty much regardless of what happens in the next two series. But that leaves it so open-ended for the rest of the teams in this competition. I mean, looking for Org, X-Heat, probably locked in bar any crazy results, but
I mean, they're in this playoffs as well with Monty.
Okay,
so, yeah.
well, that's great for them. If they make a bit of a run, then they'll lock in that position. But yeah, I'm keen to see if another team can sneak their way in here.
Yeah, I don't think Big are playing, so there is definitely the potential for Big to be taken down a peg. We could see the likes of Endpoint,
Spirit might
Sinners.
Yeah, so Endpoint, Sinners, and Eyeballers are the three I'm looking at.
Yeah, Eyeballers have not been looking amazing right now, though. They went 2-3 in Series 7, so they don't qualify for playoffs. I think we can rule out Eyeballers right now because they've not looked great after the player break. But we'll move on from Central Europe. We're going to another opening, and Mouse NXT. Now, I don't really know what's going to happen with Mouse NXT. I'm assuming like the Mouse main roster might take the spot, but then...
Well, not even, because they only have Influt, right? So you might even have to just forfeit that spot altogether. Maybe you know, I wouldn't be completely against giving it to the Org, considering they still have like Prison and Nexius they held on to as well. So I wouldn't be completely against that.
No, I wouldn't either, but the current Mouse NXT is a different beast to the Mouse NXT that was like winning North Europe.
Smaller beast.
Yes, it's a smaller beast with some smaller talents. I mean, like quite literally, they are like 15, 14, but Spirit, they're insane right now. In Donk, we trust. I've been like fangirling him for the past couple of weeks now. Nine Pandas, actually a really, really good team. Saw definitely could snatch their way in. Sprout definitely could start making a bit of a comeback with this new team. Endpoint, who knows what Endpoint are doing right now? They look good, they look bad. They beat ITB 2-1 recently, I believe. So, Endpoint, you're in a good spot. And I genuinely think any of these teams in the top 10, with the exception of Anonymo and maybe Sampi, could be hitting for that at least third place spot. So this is probably the most open-ended one we have at the moment, and I still don't know what's happening with Mouse.
Exactly like that. We just have to speculate with. I'd love to see Sampi getting into the top 3 and competing in an online finals. You know what the eLive has managed to accomplish with that team. They've brought a new AWPer into the mix as well, and Fino, I think his name is. Excited to see him competing more regularly. But yeah, again, open-ended for North Europe and a good opportunity for these teams. If they can perform, then they stand a pretty good chance of getting themselves into that top 3 and then qualifying for the next online finals.
Yeah, very exciting. And we're going to very quickly look at North America and South Europe, because these were the teams that qualified for the online finals. So if we have North America flashed up here quickly, Tropic Chaos are now known as Sojoga. That's the team that played in Online 2. But yeah, Pain were looking stunning at the time. They don't actually get the invite because Pain have since like massively shuffled the team and I believe rejected the invite. But we saw Nouns, MIBR, and Tropicaus / Sojoga. And I think MIBR definitely worthy of making that spot over. Nouns, they played a lot more than most other teams, and I think they won one of the series. If not, they came second a couple of times. And Sojoga, they were playing very well at the time, but definitely had a dip in form since.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't got to cast any of the North American region or regional circuits or series, should I say. You just look at the names, though, tells you more than what you need to know, I would say. And I mean, it's good that Nouns were able to get that experience, right?
Definitely.
In North America to accumulate all those points, and then they get to go across to Europe to play in the online finals. We'll talk more about that in a moment, but let's bring up that last region now just to update ourselves with that South America bracket, and we can see rather
South Europe
brackets. Yes, that is South Europe, and we can just have a look at how things are looking on that side. I mean, we haven't played much South Europe recently, right? So you know what, Sneaky?
We're missing the bracket
altogether.
It's okay. Aurora won,
South Europe,
and Bad News Eagles came third. Ex-Copenhagen Flames came second, but they got replaced anyway because ex-Copenhagen
You're
Flames
basically our bracket.
There
we go.
Yeah, well, it's all good. Aurora destroyed with 360 points, by the way. That's the highest win we've had in any region because they were on a tear. They won 2 South Europes, I believe. But, okay, skipping over that, let's talk finally about Online Finals number 2. I mean, as you can see, I like rambling.
Goddamn, Sneaky. I like your handwriting, though. I like your
Thank
handwriting.
you. You know what? I got a fountain pen for my birthday, and I've been addicted
Lovely.
to
That's
writing ever
beautiful.
since. Online finals number 2, just to run it through. VP 1,
Yes.
Spirit 2nd, Aurora 3rd, Saw 4th, MIBR and OG 5th, 6th, 7th to 8th, Bad News Eagles and Sinners, and then you got Zero to Nasty Nouns, ITB, Apex, Anonymous, Ajoga, Eyeballers, Mobby Style Riders. Now,
Wow.
we'll break those
Okay.
down a little bit more as we come on. But first of all, Virtus Pro, solid confidence-boosting win versus tough teams, and they managed to completely decimate Spirit's strategy coming into their rematch for that finals. I think if they just meet Spirit in that finals without having the first match to sort of prepare for them, I think Spirit beat VP. When they have the chance to basically anti-strat and learn from their demos, learn what Dunk likes to do, outmaneuver him, and in their outmaneuvering of the star player of Spirit and a little bit of an underperformance from some other players, VP win a tough game, but a very reasonable win there. But otherwise, Spirit have an excellent showcase of what the new team can do. And again, if it wasn't double elimination, I think hands down they win this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, Virtus Pro kind of saved by that lower bracket, I suppose. I will say good result for VP, considering they brought Mia into the mix now.
Yeah.
She had a really great performance in the online finals here for Virtus Pro. A lot of people weren't too convinced by that move, but I think Mia's actually really sold himself quite nicely over the past few weeks. I'll also say, Virtus Pro announced they were fielding offers for Kickert a couple weeks ago, and now they've just gone on to win this event, and they're looking like they're in okay form. By winning this, you qualify for the CCT Global Finals as well, by the way, which is going to be happening later next year. So that's a really big prospect. Spirits have also qualified because they placed top 2. But I think Virtus Pro, for them to come here in this online event, they failed so miserably at the major and they haven't done much since then. Obviously, they declined to go to IEM Dallas because they wanted to practice, apparently.
Yeah.
We all know what James' practice regime is, don't we? But it is going to be a great result for Virtus Pro, as we do see them claiming the win $100,000 as well. That's a massive purse for an online event.
It's also the same amount of money that they got for beating 9Z in a show match in the preseason.
Well, there we
they
go.
went
These guys
on
are
land
balling.
to Argentina. They were chilling in some ranch in the middle of Argentina, or like a vineyard. They had to play one game, one best of 3 against the likes of 9Z. There is an $150,000 prize pool with $100K
Sign
for
me
first place, and VP just wiped the floor clean with 9Z in an Argentinian crowd. And I had fun watch partying it. Honestly, it was hilarious.
Okay.
But 9Z showed good signs on the first map. So as much as I'm clowning, but VP were always the favourites in that endeavour, and moving away from $100,000 for one best of 3. Sorry, we're moving on. Aurora and Saw are both confident showings here.
I also just want to add on Spirit quickly, before we pivot to those teams. Placing second year is great. I mean, think about how rough the results were for the previous team. Think about it. They failed at the major. They went 0-3, just looking bleak across the board. With their academy team doing as well as they were, everybody was saying you have to make some promotions. They do. And there's been no transition period, right? They've just immediately hit the ground running. We saw them win that one CCT. What was it? West Europe, maybe series. No, it wasn't. It was
North Europe
Series 6.
North Europe
they won.
6, yeah.
Yeah, so they've already won a title there, and they get to the finals. They beat the finalists in the upper bracket. So just exciting times ahead for Spirit, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm on the Spirit
contrast
Spirit
from what we
train.
saw before.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the new Spirit roster. One to keep an eye out, and also, as I said, Saw and Aurora, confident showings, really good lower bracket runs for the both of them. Aurora, though, I heard one of their excuses was an incredibly hectic schedule, and you know what? I'm going to give that to them. They said lack of sleep coming into that VP game, at least this online finals one, was really affecting them, and they did get absolutely trolleyed. They got destroyed by VP. But another thing to note is that the top 3 teams in this tournament were all from the CIS region. So that's another big round of applause to those guys for to keep doing what they're doing. Saw very impressive and lost to a close ranked and equally as good team. MIBR, one of my standout heroes here. Awesome to see that after their move to EU, they are the only South American team that is competitive versus Tier 1.5 EU. Furia, they're gone. No idea what's happening with Furia, but MIBR is a saving grace for that region. And OG, they do okay, but they're nowhere near tier 1 level yet, which is what the org wants them to be. Without like their partner tournaments, I think OG would just be another very middling tier 2 org right now.
I agree with you. I mean, the only way we get to see them sort of exceed that level and maybe go tier 1.5 is if everything works out perfectly for this team. Like, Regali performs at his ceiling. You have Fasher, who's back to his, like, ecstatic prime, going crazy as the Star Rifler. Keto and Fiku also have to elevate their level. So the only way OG get to go, like, tier 1.5 is if everything works out perfectly for them.
It's whoever the OG talent scout is, like, they do really, really well sometimes, and then have some really weird decisions thrown in there too.
Yeah.
I
mean,
kind
for me,
of
the
like,
big... no, sorry, go for it,
no,
mate.
I mean, I kind of like the team at the moment, but again, I don't see them being like an elite tier 1 team. But continue.
No. I was going to say, it's a bit peculiar that they didn't retain Dexter. I think Dexter even said, like, he came as a surprise to him. But Regali is the one piece that I do love in this team. So it's not like I'll say, the Orping situation is a disaster by any stretch. They did lose to VP 2-1 as well, did OG. I feel like they're one of the teams that will compete better against higher level opponents than they will against, like, teams ranked between, like, 30th and 60th. That's why I can see OG, like, really struggling against those sort of teams.
No, I think that's a fair observation, but also B&E, man, coming 7th or 8th.
Yeah, let's go there.
B&E really, really struggling, and they lost to South American team. They got 2-0 by LIBR
and Saw.
And Saw. Okay, Saw, I'll give you that one. Saw, really, really good team.
Losing
but
16-9 to Saw as bad as
true. And also taking a map off of them by Nouns, who occasionally leave the country. But B&E, what is going on there? And who's not playing Devil Walk enough? Like, come on.
Well, the thing is like, what do you do? Because this is new territory for Bad News Eagles. They haven't struggled like this before. This is uncharted areas. You could imagine there's probably some frustration in the camp, like players not looking as good as they normally do. I just don't even know if you can make a roster change, though, because who do you bring into the team, right? Like, these guys, I don't know of another, not one Kosovo player who's, like, really on the fringe, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, you've got, like, the current... Is it Zero Tenacity or Blink I'm thinking of? Yeah.
It's Blink, yeah.
Like, I mean, you've got a couple
but still, none of them are, like, crazy. Like, there's
Devo... And I've made the My Little Pony comparison before, but like for Bad News Eagles, the friendship is magic. Without the friendship of this team, they do not perform anywhere near as well. I think put them on a LAN. I think they need a LAN with a decent prize pool, and then we get like great B&E back again, because they thrive off of each other's energy. Yes, it can backfire if they're playing badly, but we saw them on the Malta LAN barely losing to Eternal Fire. They lost to a Glock Ninja Defuse in like round 27, which was like, that stings. But no, they really solid on LAN and have beat Eternal Fire, 4 out of the 5 times they played them?
I mean, think about before this most recent Blast Major, we didn't actually see Bad News Eagles play many online competitions. They would normally actually just pitch up for the LANs, play those events, and then, go back into hiding until we had the big events coming around again. So now we're seeing them online, and it actually doesn't look great. It's like, don't meet your heroes kind of thing. Like, don't see Bad News Eagles play online Counter-Strike, because it's not going to look great. But anyway, moving along here.
Sure.
Where are we going next, Mr. Sneaky?
So I want to say, honestly, Sinners, they had a bad start, but a really good recovery. They weren't expected to go particularly far. So, that's just a customary Sinners shout out right now. I don't think too much more needs to be said there, but Zero Tenacity, they overperformed by not coming last. Everyone was clowning on them being invited to this tournament, and then they managed to place higher than Movistar Riders and Eyeballers, and also Sajoga, who qualified in Anonymo. Nouns not coming last, great achievement being an NA team. That sounds really condescending, but they just do not have enough good opposition in NA to even compete at this level. ITB and Apex, though, that was rough. Coming 9th to 12th. Yeah, ITB scraped past a dilapidated Movi. They lose a rough game. Apex as well, losing to Sinners. It was a big upset after going 16-5 twice against Nouns, to be expected. But
yes,
I spoke to Apex management as well, and they were like, "Damn, that Sinners game was rough." And I'm going to be honest, I don't see them they've not recovered. They've not recovered from that loss.
They haven't done great since bringing Kakanito into the mix, and it's so funny because they were playing against Astralis in Pro League.
Yeah,
Was it Pro League? And they were on the
possibly.
brink. I'm not sure. Either way, they were on the brink of beating Astralis on Ancients, and they couldn't get across the line. And they haven't really ever recovered since then.
Yeah.
Losing out here to Sinners 2-1 after winning the first map is a disaster, especially losing on Ancient, which is supposed to be one
Oh,
of
that's
their best
their
maps.
map. Oh,
They've
I
lost
was
to Oz
casted.
Attacks now recently. Yeah?
So I wasn't cast in that one, but Apex on Ancient, they were 15-6 up against alternate attacks, and then they lost 19-16.
What?
I
They
was
lost that in overtime? Are you kidding me?
it was
That's
so
insane.
painful.
Yeah, that's brutal
Apex,
for
I
Apex,
really
man.
love Apex. I love the guys. Admittedly, JL was like my main connection with the team because I chat to him sometimes. So losing JL is a loss for this team, but Sassanito is meant to be like a really solid replacement. He's played with Kickstart before. He was the star rifler for Blue Jays and genuinely looked amazing. Yes, Blue Jays did struggle to close games, and I really hope that curse does not come
Yeah.
back because that 15-6 had me in tears. Spitty was over the moon with his comeback, but that
I'm
is
not
a
surprised.
big loss for Apex. ITB get a bit
Yeah.
more slack because they lost two very important players. But come on,
Having
Apex.
said that, they did lose to Zero Tenacity, right? Like
Yeah.
2-0. And was that not with Neofrag? Was he not actually still in the team at that point? Yeah, Neofrag was still playing for them, so that's actually even more of a problem. I will just correct myself. It was the IEM Cologne play-in that Apex
Yes.
lost against Astralis, so that makes more sense as we continue to make our way through the results here. No one expected much out of Sajoga. They end up
No.
placing last, so that's understandable, I'd say, along with Anonymous, considering the form we've seen out of them. Eyeballers placing last is a bit of a blight, but the most shocking team to place last year has to be Movistar Riders, who have just made some changes recently.
Yeah, they were already on a downward trajectory. I want to say they had one impressive like LAN tournament, if I remember off the top of my head, where again like in the CCT multifinals they managed to make playoffs, and I think it was one of the challenges where they have a pretty good run. They've looked just desolate. They've been a shell of their former selves. I'm not huge on the roster change. I think it could be okay. They don't play enough officials to start. Movistar Riders don't play enough officials to get experience for these lineups. But yeah, just looking rough. And honestly, I think last question before we can just have a quick bit of back and forth to wrap things up is how did North America and South European teams that qualified for this event shape up? So we're looking at South EU. The qualified teams were Aurora, Bad News Eagles, and NA was Nouns, MIBR, and Sajoga. How did they shape up? Aurora, pretty decently, making it to the third place position after qualifying for this event. Bad News Eagles, yikes. Nouns, what did you expect? Sajoga, what did you expect? But MIBR, a shining light for that region. So MIBR and Aurora impress, and the rest either do middling or just massively underperform.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, man. It's unfortunate the teams who kind of qualified for it weren't able to accomplish more. But I mean, at least they get the opportunity, right? Always good to get more experience in a higher level competition like this. More prize money on the line. You're getting to mix different brands of Counter-Strike from different regions as well, which is always great. So yeah, you got to take the experience at the bare minimum and try and develop off the back of that.
Yeah. And anyway, Hayes, in the meantime, I'm going to go back
Yes.
to living in my field right now. Do you want to say hi to all the other horses?
You got some shit to shovel there.
There we
Sneaky?
go. Oh, I've been shoveling a lot of shit. I did 4 wheelbarrows yesterday. Did some ragwood, and I'm country living right now. I've got an interesting living
All right.
situation, so I've got I'm living in a vet's office at the moment. It's an interesting
Nice.
one.
Okay.
Also, I feel like I'm in the Lorax universe. We discussed this in the pregame. I paid £13 for a can of air. Yeah, I don't have a sneed to go with it if anyone gets my Lorax references, but I'm wearing the right colours for it. Yeah, it's been wild inside and outside of the server, and I don't know if you noticed my little blip earlier, but occasionally the internet doesn't like being 5,000 miles away from civilization. So
yeah. I mean, listen, I thought I was one supposed to be in Africa here. You and your first world internet connection not looking great right now. So there we go. I mean, listen, I don't have electricity all the time, but my internet seems to be a bit more stable.
I don't know if you guys have seen Hayes' car battery setup, but like
Oh yeah.
I like doing the accents to sort of embody Hayes, and I look at the car veteran and I'm just like, oh, that would power a PC so well. As
Listen, guys, Sneaky knows one of the best South Africans you'll hear. This guy's like, I feel like I'm in four ways. I'm walking into the club. I've just bumped a guy. Oh, sorry, but no problem. How's your night? No, all good. Like a casual conversation. So yeah, always good to get the accents in there, mate. It's
Oh
always good to
man,
have a conversation with you as well.
yeah,
I know we've got a lot of games coming up together in East Europe. We've got like 4
spicy.
playoff
Yeah,
days in
that'd
a
be
row.
fun.
So I'm excited for that. But yeah, I hope we've been able to just catch everybody up with all the action, because obviously by
Yeah.
the nature of the CCT circuit, there's so much going on. North America, South America, Europe subdivided into 5 different regions, so it's difficult to keep track of everything. So the purpose of this conversation is just to kind of centralize everything and keep check, I would say.
Yeah, and I think we've achieved that because I love a ramble and I've covered everything in my notes. Um, yeah, I still regret staying up to see if I could see the winner of South America. But either way, I've recovered from my sleep deprivation. I'm off to South America in like 45 minutes, an hour to do some
Not
casting.
literally. Yeah.
Not literally. It would be nice. I'd love to come to Brazil, despite the Twitter memery. I mean, I've actually started shit posting myself. I'm quite pleased with myself.
Okay.
Yeah, I said my voice was feeling a little hoarse and just turned the camera around into the field.
That's not
Yeah.
even shit posting. That's just like dad level jokes, man.
Yeah, no, I've been having way too much fun on social media. I went to
Good.
Cologne. That
Keep it
was
up.
really cool. Unfortunately, not as much success from our CCT regulars, but Hayes, for fear of running over horrendously, I will just say stay tuned in this episode for some more fun
Yeah.
discussions and I believe an interview coming up as well. But in the meantime, Hayes, anything else
Yeah.
to add to send us off?
Well, I will say enjoy the interview with one of my favorite and incredibly handsome individuals, along with TAZ. It's going to be a banger. And we'll catch you guys on the CCT broadcast. You'll see our ugly mugs there a number of times across all the regions. Hope you guys enjoy the action, and we'll catch you guys soon.
Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our 4th iteration of the CCT Podcast. My name is Sneaky Beaky. I am joined by the absolute legend of the game, a man who has been playing Counter-Strike for longer than I have been alive, a major champion across 2 different titles, and also a champion of Polish esports. It is TAZ. It's absolutely lovely to have you here. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm fine, man. I'm perfectly fine. Thank you for asking.
Well, I'm going to start things off by asking you, how's retirement been? What have you been up to in retirement, and have you been cooking up any schemes in the meantime?
Well, if I'm cooking something, I can't really tell you. But the thing is that what I'm doing now is just taking a step back and trying to get my community going back and just stream a little, get back some time to my family, to my wife, and basically that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm still following how the pro scene is developing, and yeah, I'm having some plans in the background, but it's too early to call anything.
Well, I did have a little look at your Twitch bio, and in your bio it says, I build teams, major champion in 1.6 in CSGO, and I will become one in CS2. So is that a little sneak peek into what your plans are for the release of the new game?
In a way, yes, but I also changed my mindset when it comes to what becoming a champion means. And back in the day, I thought it's only about winning as a player. Nowadays, I'm thinking way beyond that. I feel that it's not only what is important is to play the game, but also to teach younger players how to play the game. And I see that many teams and many organizations are building lineups in CS2. So I kind of look up to it, and I would love to build a team again, maybe internationally, and maybe coach a team. So that's one of the 2 things. Like these are 2 things I'm also thinking about CS2.
That's really cool. I mean, it would be great to see you finally taking up an international project because obviously you've always been very rooted in the Polish scene. Do you have any idea what kind of region you'd be moving towards? I'm assuming it'd be focused on sort of a European core with international aspects, or you have no idea?
I don't have anything in mind. Like I don't mind if it's in Europe or USA. It's more about that I want to have a project that I can actually create like I want to. Like every time I try to create a project, there are some issues that I just couldn't jump over. And even when I think about Honoris, like we were this close of having great lineups, and we were this close of actually becoming extremely good. But when it came to Honoris, it was mostly about the money issue and about the timing and about COVID and other stuff, right? Before we had a Kinguin, we had Devil Swan. There were other issues inside the organization. So every time I got a chance after VP to create something, I felt like people were like we. There was just it was just unlucky, with the mindset or with the timing or simply with founding.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up Honoris, so I'll ask a couple more questions on them. Obviously, you guys were effectively a mainstay in CCT. You played in quite a lot of our tournaments. So, how important was a tournament like CCT for providing opportunities for a tier 2, 3 team like Honoris? And is playing more officials the solution to becoming a more consistent roster?
I don't think that playing more officials is necessarily better. But CCT is kind of like, one of the few ways to get into main scene. Like main scene, like top tier is very close. There are partner teams, there are qualifiers are extremely hard. So by playing in CCT, teams can gain points in the rankings, and they can actually crawl their way like up to the bigger tournaments. So basically, this is one of the important fundamentals to become a good team.
Uh, and I mean, I know it's sort of recent history now, but what happens when you guys came to the CCT LAN? I mean, you came in with confidence, you came in with a fairly fresh roster change, you had the addition of Lunatic coming in, but it just seemed like the pieces of the puzzle weren't really fitting together. And I mean, it wasn't too long after that that Honoris in itself ceased to exist. But what was the sort of main problem as you had your first LAN event in quite some time?
Well, the main issue was that we managed to qualify for RMR, right?
Hmm.
So basically, we had like in our head, we had two tournaments on the same time, and instead of focusing on one tournament, we were trying to solve if we can play from Malta in RMR major qualifier. And in my opinion, this was a huge blow to our performance, both in major and both in CCT. Like, if you are not focused on one tournament, it can be troublesome. Also, when we tried to play from the major, we had totally different setup. Even though you guys provided with amazing setups, for the bootcamp, like
Hmm.
different graphic cards and stuff like that, people were like getting crazy in the head, and we were thinking about it way too much. So I assumed that we were not good as a team. I think that the team wasn't in the stage that we should qualify. Like, we qualified playing with Grashok, right? And then we swapped for Lunatic and went to LAN. So we don't know if it would be better if we would be there with our previous lineup. But yeah, it is what it is, and I think it was a huge lesson that you cannot really try to cook two dishes on one fire.
Well, was it actually Grassog's decision to leave, or was he poached by 500? What was the sort of reason behind him leaving the team?
It was a mutual agreement in a way. Like Honoris had extremely short, how do you say? We didn't have much time to actually get some results, get some partners in,
Yeah.
and we had to make some decisions. And it was one of these decisions, right? We were talking inside the team, and what I did in Honoris, what was different from other teams, is that at some point I just left the wheel, which is I allowed myself to listen to coach, to players inside the team, what should be the best. And I actually never did that before in teams. I was mostly the guy who was going out with the ideas, going out with the like we should do this or we should do this, right? And it was everything was we were agreeing, but I think that I should be a lot more decisive when it came to honors from the beginning.
And is that something you would do differently? Because in the past, you've always talked about fighting for your lineups, always being that one person who would never make the roster change, trying to make things work. So, if you could go back to the start of Honors, would you try and keep the original gang together and try and find success with that squad?
I wouldn't change anything. I believe that what happens, it happens for a reason. So I wouldn't change anything. I don't think about going back and changing my decisions because I learn on every step of the decisions I made or I didn't made. Right? If you don't make a decision, it is a decision that you'll not take any. Uh, you know, mm, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It is kind of choice you make. So I just believe that there were certain things that weren't going our way, and yeah, it's life. You need to move on.
Yeah, I mean, as much as Honorists never quite found a peak, they never quite were able to win the bigger tournaments. They were always fairly consistent. I mean, we had you in so many of our playoff stages, and I mean, you guys were playing in the first tournament that I ever personally casted. So it's been really lovely seeing your journey. It was the 21st of August 2020 is when I casted you guys against Team Unique, and seeing your progression from there to now. Yes, it's been bumpy, as have a lot of your times in a lot of rosters, but are you at least able to say you are proud of what you've achieved? And it's also nice to see that the ex-Honoris guys got picked up by Anonymous. So I suppose you did achieve your goal of helping younger talent get into more established teams.
I would say I'm proud that we managed to find the Reiko, that I gave a chance to Same after first time when he was trying out with us when we were playing with Neo, and then for the second time I was like, okay, we go with Same. So I'm happy with that he's proving that he's extremely good player. And basically, there is a very strong core, in Same, Sobo, and Reiko. So basically, Anonymous got a very good lineup for free,
Yeah.
and I'm proud of that I was able to find these players, and I'm just happy that they are doing good and have chance to actually achieve something.
Was it a little bit upsetting for you, though, when Neo originally left the lineup?
No, it was a mutual agreement.
And was that just like purely for the betterment of the team, or did Neo want to take a step back himself, or just a combination of things?
It's a combination of things. The discussions were internal, so I think we made a statement about it. So yeah, it's kind of nothing
Yeah.
changed.
That's fair enough. Well, I guess the obvious thing is quite literally dangling over my head at the moment. So I am going to take us back a little bit right now and say, well, since you've been playing on your stream recently with some of the old guard, you've been playing with the likes of Forest. Are you going to get yourself maybe into a position where you'd want to play sort of for fun but seriously with those guys in the future for qualifiers, maybe up until the end of CS:GO?
It's a hard question because it's really not depending on me if I want to play. It's mostly Swedish players, like Boomer Demons originally are from Sweden. Like they play with Lekro, they play with Freiberg, Forest, Olof, and Getright, right? They had like these 5 players who they play with, and uh, I'm just there as hey, do you want to play Face It? And also I'm like I know that I need to like have 1 week of a revamp of all the nades and stuff like that to be competitive, but that's it for now. I'm just enjoying myself. If there's like a team that wants to build something, if there's like an idea from the guys that they want to build something and they hit me up with it, like there's probably a few people competitive like me in esports, and I would probably be thinking about it because for me, if I'm in, I'm in like 100%. And
Yeah.
even though I have family, I have 2 kids, and I have a very good life, I'm a competitor inside, and I know that I can win again, no matter what position it will be.
And I mean, the obvious question, if the opportunity ever came up, for example, a show match at next year's Katowice, would you get back with the old VP squad? I mean, I imagine you have no problem playing with Neo, but just a one-off best of 3 on stage against, who knows, maybe the 2014 NIP guys or some of the Fnatic guys. Would you be up for that kind of show match? Because I do think it would bring in quite a lot of fans.
That's like two things. First, I don't say no. Second, would our fans like to see this? Like, the thing is that I thought, like, when I played VP, like till the last moment, right? So I really treated everyone like family. Like, whatever happened inside the team, it happened. There were many moments where we were supposed to remove players, like we were pushed by our owner, who's unfortunately now,
Yeah.
dead. And yeah, it's always team was on the first spot, and now after what happened, it's we kind of had a divorce, so it would be interesting to see the dynamic on stage.
I mean, I think it could still be a fun little experiment, and I do think people would still want to see it, but, I mean, obviously under a different banner, maybe a rehashed Golden 5 or one of your other projects. But, speaking again of your other projects, I mean, it was great watching you build teams like Aristocracy, like Kinguin. I mean, I got the Kinguin jersey on the wall beside me here as well. I don't know
Okay.
if you can see it on camera, but just well, you were making it to Pro League still. You were achieving decent results. Well, okay, not always, but I understand that the brands need sort of high level results. They need those first places in order to market themselves as sponsors, etc. But yeah, do you think that teams in your past should have given you more time? And if they had given you more time, do you think that you would have been able to get better results?
I mean, my main problem in the past was that I was really putting up people ahead of results. I was putting, like, if there was someone who was not doing well, or there was someone who was putting a team results at risk, I was doing like extra hours to actually fix it, or I was taking it on myself. So the how I think about the previous teams is that in Kinguin, when I was signing contract, I said that I need 2 years for this team to be tier one. In the first year, we'll probably win a tournament, like up to 100,000, right? And we will go to couple of lands. That's what I aim for. Second year, this will be like a competitive year, and we will be checking everything out. I mean, from the first month, after we stopped playing, I heard that they wanted to remove me, or they wanted to remove certain player and stuff like that. So there were many things happening behind the the closed door that I
Yeah.
didn't know, and there were many things that probably my players heard, or my coach did, or heard, and I didn't know. So I was there really trying my best, and we won Montreal. So I actually delivered on what I said we will achieve, right? And we still had to change a player. So I was like, hunting Faceit and searching like players, and then I see like this guy Diha, right? And I'm like, I'll watch a couple of demos. I download the demos. I go to Lord, please, can you write to the guy? Because if I write to him, people think that something fishy is going on and stuff like that. So we had to do it like low key. And then when we were actually, when we swapped Reeds, I think Reeds was a great player. But when we got Deha, like for the 2 weeks we were playing with this lineup, we were beating everyone. Like Vitality with Zayu, Ends, who was second place major, we were like trashing most of the teams. And when we went to the like Pro League, it kind of felt like, why are we playing like that? Like we kind of threw away some games because of being too aggressive. And I never could understand, like, we were so good, but then we didn't change. And also, like, there were like this feeling that Minis, our sniper, wasn't that good in a team, and I didn't want to, like, let him go. And basically, the decision there, like, Hades was open back in the day, right? And I was thinking about it all the time, but in the end, like, I always put people ahead of myself, and I tried to, get everything out of a person that I'm playing with. And we still got the decent results, but yeah, like, there were some things happening behind the scene that weren't really results related. This team could play for much longer, but sometimes, life
Life gets in the
plays
way.
with you, right? And
Yeah.
you need to deal with it. And I think that we just didn't get the chance to create something special.
Yeah, that is a shame. It really is. I do think you could have gone a lot further with some of your previous lineups, but thankfully for Hades, he has been given another chance now, and yeah, making it to the legend stage of a major. First of all, do
I
you
mean,
think
fun
that?
fact, fun
Yeah.
fact with Hades is that when we were building Honoris, uh, my first pick was like, we need to get Hades, right? And I was like, I paid like money for his transfer, negotiated the transfer. Then, we set it equal with Philip, but the thing is that we had Hades, and yeah, so we had some discussion inside the team, and we let him go. And for me, till this day, like, this was the stupidest move you could actually make. But hey, uh, as I said, I did some mistakes when building
Okay.
Honoris. I did some mistakes by, not trusting my gut, and I need to, take it as a man and move on. You go and learn. Then also, when we got Hades, I tried to get Kay and Kyler to the team,
Yeah.
but the owner of the organization, the Polish organization, was really, like, no, I'm not letting them for no, like, for, I don't know how much it was, like 10,000 euro. I'm not letting them, like, they were unknown, right? And I like, the money was an issue back in the day. The money was a big issue because of the COVID.
Yeah, so how expensive is it to run a team like Honoris on a monthly basis then, if you don't mind me asking? Because I'm assuming you had, what, the coach, yourselves to look after, the team salaries, and, well, everything else that comes with, like, a boot camp and stuff, and how much of it was out of your own pocket?
I mean, a lot, like, a lot was of our pocket, right? But we
Mm,
had some partners. We had Red Bull
yeah,
to start off with. We had some other partners that helped us a little, but mainly it was Red Bull and our own investment, and it wasn't enough, right? We also had some other help, but it wasn't just enough, and the timings were off.
yeah,
Like when I was playing Counter-Strike professionally, the first thing I said to myself, I will never create an organization. I will never create org without, like, big investor. If I have investor who trusts in my vision, I can create an org and I know it will be successful, because I don't know, I'm I'm in this business for 20 years, so I can easily say who will be good or who will be bad for the team, right? But when I play in the team, it's different. It's very different feeling, because
yeah,
I get attached to people. And when you're not playing, when you're like a coach, you need to be attached as well. But when you're a GM, when you're like a CEO, you talk with people, you create a team, you watch the games, and it's actually very easy to see what is wrong with the team, what issues are occurring, and then you know who to talk with. And yeah, I think that if I would do it, I would do it by not playing Counter Strike. Like, I would probably prefer to be a guy who's actually building this. And when I see certain teams that are created nowadays, I'm like, scratching my head and thinking, okay, we are missing someone here. Like, I think that you might have trouble. And then after like 2-3 months, this team is disbanding or changing lineup. And yeah, it's very hard to explain. But I think that when you play and are in the same spot for 20, like same spot in esports for 23 years, it's like sometimes you do more as your intuition than you can explain.
I mean, just continuing off of that then, what are your thoughts on the one of the craziest sort of transfer seasons we've ever seen in CS:GO? Have there been largely good decision making by top tier orgs, or has it just been all over the place? I mean, a new Cloud9, a new Navi. In fact, last time you were on the HLTV podcast, you were talking about maybe becoming the new general manager for Cloud9 back in, I think, 2021. That one was. Is there stuff you would do differently for these top tier orgs?
I mean, when we talk about these lineups, like I like some of the lineups very much. Like I like what Mouse did with their lineup. They went like full academy mode, but without adding academy at the end. Like you could see even today when how Torzi played when he had different leader. Like a good leader is extremely important for the team. Like leader is like the guy who leads the team. It's not only IGL. Like IGL calls the tactics, but the leader makes a team, right? And it could be seen that Mouse didn't have the leader, right? Maybe they have now. We will see soon, right? Then what I also like is new Navi. I like the connection between Alexi and Blade. I think that the dynamic between them is really nice. Like they both have almost close to no emotions on the daily basis, right? But I mean, Alexi is smiling from time to time. They have JL, who's like building the good spirit for the team. I am, who's like very quiet and he's exploding with passion when they are doing good. But he's not tilting. And so I overall really like what certain teams did. What Cloud9 did, I don't know if I like. Like I love Hobbit. He's a great guy. But then Nafane was the leader of this team, right? Or maybe like Shiro is the IGL, but we don't know. I didn't talk with the guys, but for me, Nafane was kind of a leader.
Yeah.
And even if they change the IGL role, I don't know if they can handle it. Maybe Electronic will become a leader now, right? So it's yet to be seen with many of these lineups. Like I love Furia, what they did with the lineup. I think that playing like with Art and getting Fallen to the team, getting Cello, you have like extremely good lurk in Xerato, and you have very good entry in Cello. You have great sniper, secondary sniper, aggressive players like Yuri, who can do everything. Like they have extremely powerful team with all the tools needed. And I think this is how you should actually build your team. You should look at the tools you need to have a successful run.
And are you a fan of like a molding of generations as well? So having one, maybe two experienced players on a lineup and then filling the rest with really good, new, young talent. Is that the sort of formula for success right now? Or does it really depend on the team?
I actually don't think it's the formula for success. I think that there's formula for disaster. The
Oh.
thing about the success and connecting like the old players and younger players is respect. And it's how much the older player can put time into the game, how much like passion he still has inside of him, and what is his role, and if the young players will accept it. Like the younger generation is really nowadays they're trying to push themselves, to the spotlight. It's because of the social media. It's because of the organizations showing everyone like everyone wants this new stars. They want everyone to shine. They want everyone to write posts and be very handsome and popular in camera. So it's hard for a player not to think about only the game, right, and what he can create for the team. But let's say that you get that like two old players who are very good, like skill wise, and then you get three very young guys who are like extremely skillful. What will you get? Yeah, you will get skill, but Where's the brains? Where's the charisma? Where's the leadership? Where's the experience? Where's the trust, the respect to these guys, right? Like, I think that's what you can see in Furia. Like, Fallon is very old, right, compared to other guys, but he has the passion and he has the leadership and the respect of all the players. Like, all these guys look at him and like, Fallon, we love you, brother. Finally, we play with you. Papa. Like this is the feeling that when we created VP, you could feel like that Bialy and Snacks were really passionate about playing in this lineup, right? With time, with wins, like the limelight, the spotlight took it away, right? It was a struggle. And I think that this is the most important part, is that people, when you build a team, it can't be like, oh, okay, I will play with you. Yeah. You're really good. Yeah. But I know better. It will not work. It needs to be, the chemistry needs to be there when you try to build older, younger, how do you say, like, players
connections,
together. Yeah.
Is that one of the reasons that you always sort of stuck with a Polish lineup, though? Or was that, well, I guess in your mother's words, due to your patriotism for Poland? You wanted a good bit of cohesion, but you also wanted to stay close to your roots? Or is that just a force of habit at this stage?
I really always wanted and I dreamed to have like a Polish lineup, like at the top. Like from the youngest days, even when I had offers to leave the team, when some people left the team, I didn't want to. And it was just the feeling that I don't want to play internationally. See, like, I was the football fan, and I was growing up cheering for like Arsenal, Juventus, these kind of teams, and I want to have a team in esports I will cheer for. So that's why I was so fighting for VP. Like, even when we were supposed to have like two guys like from in other country, I was like putting my head there and saying, no way, trust me on that. And it kind of worked out, right? So I think that Kinguin would work out. I think that Honoris would work out if you would have like a bigger, a little bit more time, and if we would put all the money into one span of the time, it would be successful. But the problem was that COVID actually scared a lot of partners, and it kind of killed the beginning for us. And it was the moment where we got the most invites, right? I was sitting and searching for players because we didn't have money to buy Polish players. Like, the market is extremely, very expensive. And it was an interesting experience, because I had to go really down to the roof and search. And I kind of like it. Like, I feel like it gave me some more depth on the what you need to search in the players.
Yeah, I mean, you found some pretty talented up and comers. I won't deny that. But you talk about COVID, and COVID also removed, well, all LAN events for effectively 2 years. And I don't know if it's just me, but I do feel like there's less prominent tier two LANs and tier two LAN opportunities as well since we've come back from COVID. Also, a point you made quite recently was that it doesn't quite feel the same. Players don't quite have the same personalities as they used to. Yes, there's a lot of online content, but there's also less opportunities to sort of cheer for them in person. And do you think that that's hurting brands and hurting fans being able to attach themselves to particular players?
I don't know if it's about the lack of tournaments or maybe lack of this outgoing personalities, which we used to have. Like, we used to have a lot more, people who are like very extremely loud and passionate with their whole body language, right? Nowadays, young players are extremely passionate, extremely talented. The skill level is higher than it used to be. But I think that everyone is trying to use the mental coach, like all the psychologists and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, calm down, be calm, don't, you need to be stable emotionally. So that, like, certain, for me, like, depending on from where you are, you need to behave in a certain way to feel natural in the game and to actually play a lot better than you would if you're, for example, if you are coming from a very calm place and you are supposed to scream, yes, you will play worse. But if you are coming from, from a country where everyone is like hot blooded and everyone is very passionate, you need to be passionate. And for this, you need to have the right team as well, because sometimes certain players will go down if you have like extremely loud person on the other side or emotional, right?
Yeah, okay. Well, speaking of the right team, I was going to mention them earlier with Hades, but do you think that Nine is the right team to be the next, I guess, torchbearers for Polish Counter-Strike? Do you think that they peaked back in the major, or do they still have a lot more to show?
I hope so. I hope that they can actually handle the pressure. This is yet to be seen in Cologne. First, they need to go through Cologne playing. They beat OG today, so it's a good start. There was extreme amounts of pressure on them because of the major, and they probably lacked someone with experience to calm them down or prepare for it before the tournament starts. So if they will not be able to be successful, they just need to, to sit down and maybe, I don't know, maybe try to find a person to get them over the hump, because I don't think they need to change the lineup. I think they are doing perfectly fine.
I mean, yeah, they also managed to get their way through a really tough, I think it was an open qualifier and closed qualifier to Gamers 8 recently. Some crazy overtime games, some wild victories over, again, what is considered Tier 1. Are these guys closing the gap again between Tier 2 and Tier 1? It was a discussion that was quite big around the major. But yeah, are these newer teams almost arguing against franchising, for example?
I mean, franchising is important, right, for the living of the
Yeah.
organizations. Like certain big organizations, they kind of got their place because of how they played. It's not like they just got invited there, right? They, in a way, like, I miss the word. Yeah, but yeah, they are in this place because of the
They
reason,
earned it.
right? They earned it.
Yeah.
Exactly, that was the word. So for me, it's like tournaments like CCT, like other smaller, not that small tournaments. There are millions in prize pools nowadays. Give the chance to other organizations to actually rise up, and it's not a small feat to actually win other event than the ESL Blast ones, right? So, and also, like as Nine showed, it's you can be consistent in going through qualifiers, and there's not always one spot. Sometimes there are like 2 or 3 spots to qualify. Like, or Pro League has like plenty of spots that you can grab in some tournaments. So it's a lot easy. Like, there are a lot more chances for the smaller teams, but also uh, the teams are more skilled and there are more players who are hunting for it.
So do you think it's easier to get your way up to a big event from scratch now, or was it easier back in, say, 2014, 2015?
Mm, I think now it's easier to get it. Like nowadays, you can basically tank yourself for major qualifier, and if you get to the major RMR and you just win 2 games or like 2 or 3 games,
Yeah.
you're in the major, and your ranking is like top 12 or top 15 by going through the major. So, and the qualifier is hell for top teams, and extremely nice place for underdogs. The pressure is a lot lower for these teams, right?
Yeah.
And then you have some other qualifiers for ESL tournaments that you can get. which are giving a lot of points. So I think that overall, if you work, if you have good lineup, and if you're talented, you will jump over the hump.
Well, just quickly touching on the ranking systems then, do you think we need one unified ranking system rather than a sort of an ESL one, an HLTV one? I think we had an ESIC and a CSPPA one for a while. Do we need just sort of one ranking system to make, I guess, inviting teams a little bit fairer? And do you think that the HLTV ranking system perhaps needs a little bit of an overhaul and maybe give more weight to online tournaments because they are still incredibly hotly contested?
Oh, this is a tough question. Like, probably it's hard to do. I think that ESL is kind of using some, like ESL is trying to use other events as well for the ranking, and it's hard for me to say from the spot I'm sitting in because I don't know all the details, how they work with Blast, how they work with CCT, with Grid, like with everyone. Like I have no clue how it's actually working behind the scene. If I would know more, maybe I could give you my example how to fix it. But yeah, at the moment, it's rough. But one thing is sure that if there are partner teams invited to tournaments, and like for example, Ants, who's winning EM Dallas, is not invited to Blast, and they have almost no way to qualify, or they need to play 4 qualifiers, then why do HLTV is adding Blast points like ESL points? Like it's strange for me then, and they need to fix it somehow. The HLTV org at least. But
Yeah.
from the first day of HLTV ranking, I said to my guys in VP, okay, this is bullshit. Like if we only play in tournaments, and yeah, we just need to fly to tournaments, and we never drop out from top 10.
Fair enough. So, I mean, going into skewed rankings, you mentioned that the Blast system's probably, well, I'm assuming you believe the Blast system's not as fair as the ESL one, where the partner teams basically get 6 chances to qualify, and anyone else has to go through 4 sets of open to close qualifiers, different tournaments. Do you think that the Blast system needs an overhaul as much as their ranking points need to affect HLTV differently? Or is this okay because it is just franchising?
Is it okay for the franchising? Like the scene is kind of oversaturated at some point when you have like Blast with same teams, and then ESL just also trying to make their tournament, and then CCCT is inviting some of the top teams, and it at some point the CCCT events are the most interesting ones because you see like top teams playing against these underdogs, and it kind of is interesting and like a reality check for the lower teams if they are ready to jump further, right? So that's a good thing. I wished we had like more top teams playing, right? Or like even bigger dogs playing in the lower tournaments, but it is extremely hectic already. I've been there, I traveled. I know that there is not much time for rest. If you rest, you don't practice. If you practice, you get burned out, and not everyone can handle it. Like even in my team, like when we were playing 1.6, we were practicing like every day of the year. Maybe 7 days of the year we didn't practice. Maybe 7, maybe. Like we were practicing all the time, and we won the most major tournaments in 1.6 history, right? Then in CS:GO, when we were practicing this much, like some of the players didn't really like it. They were getting burned out, and we didn't practice as much. Our practices weren't the best, but still we managed to be good, right? With all the traveling. So imagine nowadays when you also need to practice a lot, you need to travel a lot, and the lower tier teams are like playing all the time, and they are like on your on your toes, and also like a lot of teams, the smaller one teams, are watching every demo of the top team. So if you somehow drop from the Mount Everest to the Mordor, you might never come back. You might never come back. If you're like dropping from ESO tournament invites or Blast tournaments invites, and you need to play against these, young guns, bro, you better be ready.
Well, also just going off of your traveling point, we are also quite lucky today that traveling has been made a little bit easier to events. I remember a story you were telling about driving, I think, 30 hours to Spain for an event and then having to drive 30 hours back in a tiny car with sunburn. We do have the luxury of getting our flights paid for now, for the most part. And I guess factoring that into the grand scheme of things, it does make getting those rest days and travel days, cutting down on time, that little bit easier. Do you think players today are lucky in that sense, or do you think that was always a natural progression?
Uh, there are certain ways you can put it, but like it's definitely a huge step forward that nowadays like the tournaments are paying for everything. If you get the tournament, you get paid trip, paid hotel, even paid food, which is not like garbage food. This is actually like great food which you
Yeah.
get provided with, right? Like when we were in CCT, I was like, what is this? Like this is like pro league level. And the thing is that everyone is making a step forward, right? So I think that this is also why there are so big expectations from younger players to actually provide some content, because you kind of need to pay for this. You need to get people interested nowadays. Like influencers are rocking the world, like YouTubers, streamers. Like you stream when you shout or make stupid things and it's funny, bro, you're getting millions of views. If you play Counter-Strike, what are you doing, nerd? And so it not much changed beside that we as human beings found a way to use internet in a more stupid ways than before, right? And it's working. Like we need, what I think is that we need comedy. Like we are in times where we kind of need comedy, and the internet is providing a lot of this stuff, because depression is a very serious threat to especially gamers, young people. Like it's very complicated matter.
Yeah.
But all in all, like I understand that there is a lot more pressure on players nowadays from orgs to do some content than before. And if you do that, you also need to have a good way to talk with these young guys and getting them ready for it.
Yeah. Also, do you think that esports, in a sense, has lost a part of its community value because it's no longer going up to meet friends and play with people in person? It's sitting in a dark room, as you said, streaming Face It FPLC for hours on end, and then maybe tough schedules, not having much time to just take a break from the game because there are now more expectations placed on young players. Does that all sort of tie into why burnout is more prevalent in recent times?
I mean, you you lose some, you gain some, right? So in a way, it's harder for for your mental health. But on the other hand, you can grow your community way easier than before. So I think that it's just a way of making things in a healthy amounts. Like when you stream, how much you stream; when you practice, how much you practice. What do you do in your off time? Like you kind of need to plan everything now. Like it's not necessarily like you need to do it like a bodybuilder, but you need to do a little bit more than only playing in front of PC. Like when I was starting the career, we were kind of like we were building esports. We there was no esports. We With time we started to call it esports because it sounded cool on TV or in interviews. So yeah, I'm doing esports, milady, and that was kind of the way, right? Before it was like I'm playing games. Games? What do you do? Yeah, you need to headshot the guy and then plant the bomb and make the big boom, and it wasn't pretty for the interview. So you had to find a way, and the best way was to call it esports. And then you can explain a lot of stuff, what it is, and how good it is for young people, because actually electronic sports is extremely good for many aspects of your life. Lately we forgot that you also need to be with people, and it's not only about the hours in games, because like you can have 40 hours per 2 weeks in Counter-Strike and you can be one of the top players, but you can be a different person and you need to have like 100 hours, right? But you still need to go out, you need to have some other stuff to do. Like I love what Nikola Jokic said after winning an NBA title and MVP in NBA finals. He said that it's his job. Like basketball is his job. He has other hobbies. So, well, I don't think you can do esports and only do it as a job if you don't have other hobby, right? I used to do esports because it was my hobby, and I never wanted to call it a job. Now I need to call it a job, what I'm doing, because my daughters are asking what I'm doing, right? So I'm going to do the work, and it is kind of painful to call it a job, because we are lucky to have it as a esports as a profession. Yeah.
I'm very lucky that you guys paved the way for me. Now, sitting in my room here chatting nonsense about Counter-Strike all day, and it still doesn't feel real calling it a job.
You're welcome.
Oh, thank you very much. You're very kind. And it was fun watching you do it as well. I think you won WCG 2006. I would have been 4 years old. So it's been a long time since then. But
Wow.
I was gutted I wasn't able to see you at the Face It Major, the first tournament I went to. But yeah, things didn't go amazingly well there for VP, nor in Boston. But we'll skate over that for now. And okay. Speaking of new metas, redefining industry. What do you think CS2 is going to do to the CSGO landscape? What teams, what players are your favorites going into the next iteration of Counter-Strike? And just your overall thoughts on this massive milestone in Counter-Strike.
Oh, it's extremely hard to say, other than it will probably grow a lot. Like the community will be a lot bigger. We already heard the plans to go to China, which if we were able to go to Asia, like Counter-Strike will be humongous. Like I remember how it was in 1.6 when we traveled to China. Like people were running behind us, like not 1-2 person, but like hundreds. And you kind of like it's a different vibe. You feel like a rock star in Asia when you do esports, right? So I really hope that Counter-Strike 2 can become like also big in China, that the graphics will also make people in States, and the subtick will make it more playable for everyone in the United States, and not only United States, but also South America with Brazil, Mexico, and other countries. So I hope this can happen. I think I messed up something here, but hopefully not. Okay,
You're good. I hear you fine.
The thing is that I just hope that CS will be worldwide, because nowadays it felt like CSGO just was becoming more and more European, oriented, other than the worldwide one.
I mean, we've lost a lot of big names. MVP PK, we've lost pretty much all of the major Asian players, Tyloo as well. Not quite the powerhouse that they used to be from the region. It would be great to have that revamp in the Asian scene. Yes, we got the Mongols and everything, but I do think this major will do great things. But at the same time, hopefully there's just no political complications with having an event in China, and obviously having to play a different version of the game, if I'm not mistaken, when out in China. Only very slightly, but the reskins and stuff. I mean, do you think there will be any problems hosting a tournament in China?
I mean, I know that it's very complicated to bring the game to Asia. So I think that Valve is finding a way, or they found a way to go through certain regulations. And if they do, then they would not change anything in the game, because it would be stupid to play a different version. Like we did it with 1.6. There were like WCGs played on Condition 0, on Source, on 1.6. And some, like, imagine having a tournament of this magnitude, and you have like 1 month to prepare on this different version, different movement, different shooting, different skins, and some bazookas in game. It would probably be crazy to do it.
Well, I mean, speaking of different movement, different skins, I mean, CS2 is a different game in effect. The movement is slightly different. The weapons are a little bit different in terms of the tracers and the spray patterns from what we've been hearing so far. But I wanted to ask you a more lighthearted question. And what do you think the biggest meta change has been in the history of Counter-Strike so far? I mean, you can break it into 1.6 and CSGO if you want, but what was the biggest change for you as a player?
I think adding Molotovs was a huge change to the mechanics of the game, and also, like, there are a couple of things, there are a couple of things, but I hope that CS2 also brings some changes. I hope that it will not be a copy paste from CSGO to better graphics, because it would be a waste of potential. And also, by doing that, you would actually keep the big fish like in the same place. No, like, people wouldn't have to learn how to swim. And I think it could be really cool and refreshing if the game would be like 80% same, or like 75, and then you need to relearn certain things like mechanics and stuff like that. Like, even if you are a top team and they change you the way you need to shoot, or they change the way you need to move, you have experience with communication, you have experience with how to learn these things, you have experience of how to move around the map, like how to develop certain situations. So still, like, the people who are top level, they would be top level, right? But there would be like this slight window to have more talents in, like more fresh blood, maybe, could be really cool.
Do you think there's any teams that are going to be, getting ahead in that? Do you think it will be the younger players to adapt faster, or just it's too early to say anything?
I think it's too early to say, and I think that I mean, not very old guys, but like, even if you are 25, 26, 27, you'll be able to adapt extremely fast.
Well, in that case, who is your favorite team or player coming into the end of CS:GO?
If I would, it's tough. Tough.
You can give me a few choices. I don't mind. I know it's a tough question.
It's a tough question, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, many players stopped playing with whom I played, but there are a couple guys which I really like. I can straight from my head say that Fallen is one of my favorites. I had some talks with him. I met him, when he was in Warsaw. Had some chats. So I really like him as a person, and I think that he has a very nice history behind him. I think Carrigan is one of the guys I think that needs to deserve the prize for fighting through everything. Like, people doubted him across his career many times, and he kept coming back and kept getting the trophies. Other than that, let me check, because I'm now checking players with the most maps, so I don't miss anyone. Who else? Give me a
take your
second.
time.
I mean, I think that the Swedes needs to be there. Like, I think that the whole rivalry with the Forest, with Get Right, with with Freiburg, is really special. Like
Yeah.
the Olaf Meister. I hate this guy. Like they took like 2 majors from us. Or even more. Like we used to lose against these guys who are in top tier. Who else?
I mean, that's how I found Counter-Strike. My friend was the biggest diehard Fnatic fan ever. He showed me a game between Fnatic and VP, and I decided that your logo was cooler. So I went with VP, and I've been a diehard fan ever since. And I guess on that VP note, what do you think of the current VP lineup coming into the end of CS:GO? Are you a fan? Do you like the style?
I don't actually know. I don't know what is their lineup. I don't really follow them.
Sure.
But I think they got Mir, and I've always thought that
Yeah.
Mir is really good player. So we will see how they will handle their
That's fair
issues.
enough. I mean, they've just dropped Kickit as well, and Norbert broke his hand, so I think they're a 4-man roster. But yeah, that was pretty crazy news coming
It's
into.
interesting that he broke his hand. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's a big shame, but I mean, Outsiders winning the Rio Major as well, that was pretty wild. I'm going off topic here, but reeling it back in, you were talking about your favorite players, favorite teams, end of CS.
I
Did you?
think maybe we could add Zonic as well to
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
I mean, Zonic, I guess he's got his 5 majors as well now, him and Dupree. That's an amazing achievement, winning more than a quarter of all of the majors in CS:GO. I think they've got 5 of 19, each of them, which, yeah, is wild. But going back to you, are you a little bit upset that you weren't able to win more than one major in CS:GO?
Yes, I was. Like I was always like we have like I don't know 10 trophies or more, like of the quarterfinals, and we usually like we lost 2 times to Luminosity, who won 2 majors. We lost 2 times to Fnatic, who won majors. We lost to Astralis in the final. They won major. This makes 5. And it's like no, it is pain because I feel like we could win every of this tournament, but I think for this lineup we had in VP, we did probably the most of it what we could. Like this team was built to provide excitement. This team was more built to provide excitement than anything. Like players in this team weren't this die-hard workers like we had in 1.6, right? It was a lot different when it came to mentality. And it is what it is. The money was bigger, the situation we came across was different. So I think that we should be happy that we were able to win what we won. And the most important thing for me is that we won the hearts of people. Like maybe we didn't win. Yeah, I see that. I see what you did there. Maybe we didn't win the most majors, but I think that we still will be remembered as one of the most exciting teams to watch, if not the most exciting team to watch.
I have some of my fondest memories of just sitting down at my computer watching you guys play insanely over the years. It was crushing. I was in school. I remember when the lineup broke for the first time, and then the second time in 2018, 2019, and yeah, you guys really did inspire a fan base. You kept them energized. Every single tournament you go to now, without fail, you will always see someone with an old Virtus Pro jersey, and the legacy that you guys have left is a very, very tough one to live up to. Do you think we're ever going to see a team able to live up to that same legacy, whether internationally or in Poland again, in, I guess, CS2 now?
I don't know. In a way, I would like to say no, But on the other hand, I think that we will get this kind of team. Like I like what Vitality is showing, for example, like how Zonic is very, vivid, how Apex is like screaming and stuff like that, like, Sylvester Stallone style. So I really like it, what they provide. I like Cadin, what he provides when he is playing. Like I love Bad News Eagles, their spirit. Like I think that we will get this kind of vibe, right? We just need to
Yeah.
wait a bit. We need to wait for the pieces to combine, and then we will be having probably more teams like that.
Yeah, I mean, it is exciting seeing these new storylines weave themselves into the game, and also one of your old foes, Devil Walk, is now the coach of Bad News Eagles, so that's been an interesting development. Hopefully, they can use that to continue pulling off what is a miraculous, I think, third qualification now to a major. But
Yep.
moving aside from those kind of legacies, in your own legacy, what was the biggest personal change for you just throughout your esports career? I know there's 23 years to choose from, but was it the jump from 1.6 to CSGO, maybe leaving VP? What was the biggest jump?
I think that the biggest jump for me was how I had to change in VP from the player I was in previous years of my career. Like the change, like from the guy who was who cannot be beaten, cannot be defeated, with the belief that I can defeat everyone, win against everyone, win every duel, to a guy who needs to provide and take care of or make negotiations, discuss with negotiate with every player and stuff like that. Like it was rough for me. Like the change was rough because it took extreme toll on my game,
Yeah.
but I think that it gave me a ton of experience when I think about future. Like as a player, I changed, right? And I don't think I can get back to my wild self, who I was before. But as a human being and as a person who understands esports, I did huge step forward by changing myself in VP and doing a lot of stuff, like from negotiations to doing some business things.
So, I mean, we're going to go back to Honor quickly on that point then. Do you think the added stress of being the org owner, the negotiator, all of that stuff, was that added pressure weighing on you when you were in the server, or were you able to separate those two paths when you were there playing the game?
I don't think it was weighing on me. I think it was weighing on the players, and this is something which cannot be ever outspoken by the guys because he pays the bills and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think the dynamic was sick from the beginning. Like from the point that me and Neil was playing to the point where I was playing alone, like I could feel that something is off. And like for example, if I'm a owner of an org and I'm playing, I should never be a guy who's not leading the team. I should be leading the team. I should be IGL. I should be a leader for this team. And I didn't do it. So this is the biggest mistake I did for Honoris. And it built a very strange, unhealthy place to work for players and for myself. And yeah, it is what it is. You need to, get the lesson, write it down, move forward.
Is that one of the reasons why it wasn't working out at the end when you brought Lunatic in? Because if I'm
I
not
think
mistaken,
so. I think it was one of the reasons why it wasn't working.
No, it still feels very weird saying, well, I won't be casting you for the rest of CSGO. It was always nice to, I mean, especially in your pistol rounds, you were pretty damn good at finding ridiculous things in your pistols, at least off of the CCT I was watching. But yeah, I do hope we get to see you in some form coming into CS2, whether it be a player, a coach, a manager. And so I do wish you all the best in that. But 7 years ago, you said you wanted to look back with a feeling of accomplishment. And I just wanted to ask, do you feel like you've accomplished everything that you set out to in 1.6 and CSGO?
I could say yes. I think like I always wanted to build a legacy. I was obsessed with it when I was talking about it about CS:GO and 1.6, and I think that I was able to build a legacy as a player and a leader in 1.6, and I was able to do like build a legacy in CS:GO as well. Maybe I didn't achieve like MVP tournaments. I didn't become like a top player. Like people used to say, "Oh, you're dragging them down," and yeah, like I needed time to actually understand how much I did for the for the team and how important I was for the development of CS:GO. But it's in the end, I'm just happy with that my legacy will be winning hearts of people, and yeah, it's that's the most important part for me. As when I think about CS:GO and VP times, and getting trust and actually changing this trust into success. And I think that this is something which will be always core to me. And like when I think about CS:GO, I will always remember Kingwin and winning Montreal because nobody expected that. This was my like road to like I rose up as Phoenix from
Yeah.
ashes when I was removed from VP, and I was able to win the last tournament like on LAN won by Polish team. Like since till now, no Polish team won a LAN tournament. Last was in Montreal as Kingwin, if I'm remembering correctly. And the thing is that for me it was a huge achievement because I got the players I wanted. We fought very hard and we won the tournament. I just missed the HLTV trophy on my cabinet because it was invite only.
Yeah, no, I heard you talking about that previously, and something else you mentioned as well was it was a big success for you beating VP with that Kingwin lineup. I think it was in an ESEA tournament
It
not
was
too long.
for EPL spot. I
Yeah,
remember that we won first. We lost first game, and then we suddenly won like 2 games in a row against VP and AGO, and we were the only team from Poland to qualify for the EPL. And when we came back to Poland, the organization made some strange decisions, and it was the end of the team. Imagine that we won this qualification and we come back home to play the major, and there are certain news that like killed everyone in the team, and there was no way I could make this team work anymore.
yeah. I mean, it's gutting. I mean, I really could just sit here and reminisce with you all day. I would absolutely love to. I'm also gutted that the one time I was in Warsaw, you were in Malta, because the talent for CCT was remote from Warsaw, next to the Kingwin Performance Centre, funnily enough. But yeah, I'm gonna not keep you for too much longer, so I prevent myself from rambling. But just what is, I guess, your most memorable moment from your career? If you could sum it up with your greatest success or something along those lines. I know you've probably been asked this quite a few times, but yeah, is there that one moment that stands out?
I think that for me the greatest success is that I was able to play against top teams of different generations, top players of so many generations. I even in honors when we were qualifying to CCT and we had to play against really good teams and stuff like that to qualify. I think this is something which I would call extreme big achievement to be able to hang on with all the young players, and even I didn't do what I do the best, which is leading, and it will be always awkward for me that I did that. Other than that, I think that WCG 2006 will be always something I will remember. It was the first major trophy, and then Katowice 2014, first major trophy in CS:GO. I treat E-League win as the major as well. Like this was huge. Like it was the first and I think only tournament in television in USA, and we won it. So there are a couple of things, right? Also, when we were supposed to do changes, like players we had so many fights, and I was able to get the team together, and we went like tournaments like Epicenter. After a huge fight inside the team, we went to Epicenter 2017, and we lost barely to extremely good SK Gaming team in a final after epic best of 5 game. Like, listen, there are moments that I could actually talk with you for like 1 hour, and these moments would probably be in hundreds. so there are so many things I'm proud of. I'm proud of people I worked with. My only wish is that sometimes I wasn't that hot-headed, and that's it. Like, I'm very emotional guy. So if you step on my foot too many times, I become emotional, right? And not everyone can handle emotional TAZ. Like you know the anime. You saw what this guy is doing, right? so yeah, that's the only thing I regret.
I mean, there's a reason that you're called the Tasmanian Devil. You got a hot temper on you. But no, I thought it was very poignant in your retirement post, the Looney Tunes jumper. That's all, folks. I confess I shed a few tears. It is such a shame to see you go from the scene. And again, I do hope we see you in some form in the next iteration of Counter-Strike. And hey, maybe we'll get a treat. Maybe you'll qualify to something fun with Boomer Demons down the line. Obviously, no influence over that, but I'm not going to hold you for much longer. Is there anything that you would just like to add on the end as a wrapping up piece, I suppose?
I don't know. It's hard for me to say. Like, thank you for your time, and thank you for inviting me to this interview. So I hope that everyone will enjoy, and I would like to congratulate everyone who listened to the end.
Thank you to everyone who has made it this far, and thank you to you for coming on. I have been trying so desperately to hold in my excitement that you are here, and I'm getting to talk to, again, one of the Golden Five. And after this, thank you so much again to everyone who did come to watch. And on that note, I think that's everything we've got for now. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
A very complicated job, but I love simple things so much. One move, one push, one touch, one love, one click, one XBet.
Trying to get the skin of your dream for a long time but can't get it in any way? On our website, you have a unique opportunity to get your favorite knife. Users on our site can hand out skins themselves, and participants need to fulfill some simple conditions. For example, watch a video or buy a case on our website. After that, you automatically become a member of the distribution. Go to the user giveaways tab and do what you like. Hellcase.